Welcome, everybody. I'm Coach Matt. I got Coach Mike Morris, Pete Toal, Mike Skills, Sean Morris, and we got Byron back again, and we're going to talk the final two episodes of The Last Dance. And we're just going to get right into it. Byron, you're first up, man. So we know how episode 8 ended. Reggie talking about he thought they were going to end this thing. So we all know what happened. For those that didn't know, they saw it in episode 9. Indiana, Chicago, it goes 7. Like, I got to know your thoughts on that whole thing, man, because we were both sophomores, 16 years old when all that happened. You were 16 at that time. So I'm interested, Byron, you being the all-time Jordan guy.
That series, I don't think there was an opponent that the Bulls faced in any of their playoff runs that scared me as much as the Pacers did. They were amazing. And I don't think enough credit goes to the coach, Larry Bird. I love how the documentary shows the relationship with Michael and these other players. For example, they show the 63 against Boston. Now it's come full circle, and he's having to face Bird again, but this time as a mastermind coach. And it would have been interesting to see him coach for a few more years because he was so good, and I thought that team was so good. You got the young Jalen Rose, you had Chris Mullin, the Davis brothers, you had Smiths, and of course the great Reggie Miller.
Jalen Rose?
Travis Best. So it was a wonderful series. I'll tell you this. I remember Game 6 when Michael had a chance to end it all, and he slips. They didn't show this in the documentary, but he slips. He loses the ball. I remember my brother, who was 7 at the time, 7 or 8. I remember him just crying. No, he was 9. I'm sorry.
Brenton was crying?
He cried. He said, no, that was a foul. And they showed the playback. And I said, sorry, little bro, that was clean.
He just slipped.
And it just showed how much, in my mother's living room, the love we have for the game and for the Bulls, even growing up in Houston.
Byron, was this the house by Chato's Funplex?
Exactly. Yeah, that house. And what I will say is this, man. At that time, people were saying that Michael had lost it, and we almost started to believe it just because he wasn't able to close out those games. You could definitely see the fatigue. So to see them win that in 7 and it being close, it's one of my favorite series of all their playoff runs.
Hey, to that whole thing with Michael, because we remember in game 4, he gets the little double clutch. It goes off the backboard, rattles out, and pops out. And then everybody did. And then game 6, Reggie thought it was going in. And in game 6, as you said, he slips and the Pacers win. Mike Skills, I know you got a lot to say about this series.
Oh, man. I pretty much agree with almost everything Byron said. It did show him slip in the documentary, but it was a little ESPN clip before Game 7 where you see him cross over and slip. And I remember at the time when he fell, I just thought to myself, damn, now we got to go to 7. Anything can happen in the Game 7. Like, somebody can get hurt, somebody can get hot, anything can happen. But from the standpoint of the series, I was really good. I mean, Game 1 opener, filled each other out. Bulls prevailed. Game 2 was closer. And then Game 3 was the one where Reggie, he sprains his ankle and he hits a couple shots down the stretch to seal the win. And it's like, all right, these games been close.
Hey, real quick, Mike Skills, all the first 4 were all decided by 6 points or less?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they were all really close games. So it was like we could have easily been up 3-1 or 3-0 or 2-1. It seemed right.
It could have been a sweep. It could have been.
It wasn't going to be a sweep, but it was like the games were that close, and then you have Game 4, the epic. Like, honestly, that Game 4, so much happens down the stretch. You have Reggie playing on a sore ankle that he sprained the game before, which was 2 days prior. This is on Memorial Day. Then you have the Bulls up 1. Pacers have the ball, throw it away, and then you have Ron Harper and Reggie go to the bench and there's like a little scuffle there. Scotty goes to the line, misses 2 free throws.
And at the time, they said he was 2 for 5 at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So he had it in his head, and he already wasn't a great free throw shooter.
I mean, he was an okay free throw shooter.
Like 70%.
Yeah, I mean, that's not terrible, but it's not like excellent at the same time. It's typically reliable. When he missed that first one, I was like, oh boy. And then he missed the second one, and Pacers get the ball. Reggie hits the shot, and I'll never forget it as long as I live, and I'm glad the documentary showed it. The look on Larry Bird's face after Steve Miller hit the shot. Like, there's something that has to be said about Michael Jordan, how feared he was in his time.
Also, but think about this, Mike Skills. Also, Larry Bird has done that same shot many fucking times in his career. So it's like, that's nothing to him. I've done it. I've seen Reggie do it many times. Let's go. The game's not over, especially because you got that other guy on the other team.
Right. But that's the big point. The game's not over. There's enough time for someone to catch it. Everyone in the world.
And Reggie even said it. Like, he knew it wasn't over.
Yeah. Everybody in the world knew who was going to get the ball. No one had any doubts. If you're watching that now and you're watching it then, you know Jordan is getting the ball. And for him to double clutch off the glass, in and out.
Hey, you know what that was like? Game 1, Lakers Bulls, 91 finals.
Yeah.
After Big Smooth hit the 3,
mm-hmm.
Same exact scenario, rattled in and out.
Yeah. The thing about it, though, is after that, I knew, I was like, yeah, this is going to at least 6. And when he slipped in game 6, went to 7. The whole time in that series was like, we can't pull away from these guys.
No.
The way the team was set up, you had Antonio and Dale Davis basically interchangeable. You had Rick Smith at the 5, who was a problem for
the
players in the league. Then you have Chris Mullin, you know, the legend, the dream teamer, the Hall of Famer, as the 3, Reggie, and then Mark Jackson at the 1. Then you have Derek McKee coming off the bench, Jalen Rose, Travis Best. Like, they had a squad that put fear in you, because it was like they're
physical.
They're physical.
Yes.
They can shoot, and their fundamentals are solid. Like, that team, their IQ, everything. So when we won that game 7, or when the Bulls won that game 7, because
you can say we, Mike. You're a native Chicagoan. You can say we. That's your team. Hey, you were with the Bulls when they were terrible. You can say we.
But I felt like I was on the team. Like, I wasn't on the team, but I felt like I was on the team, kind of. But when they won that game 7, I just remember like exhaling, just like, like when it was down the stretch in that game. Pacers, honestly, I don't know how the Pacers lost that game. I still don't know to this day how they
damn near had that game won. They were going to knock them out.
Yes, and it just went cold. It just, you know. What did Mike say in the pregame when he was sitting back there with Gus and his other security guys? He was like, it's nut crunching time. And you see, like, in that last, like, 3 minutes, I don't think the Pacers scored. I think they scored maybe, like, 4 points in the last, like, 3 or 4 minutes of that game. It was a wrap.
Mm-hmm. How bad do you want it?
Yeah. And the best thing about that game 7, where I love the documentary highlighted, was it was a team win. It wasn't like MJ just went off and scored 40, and they showed that he didn't have a great game. He came out, everybody came out tight. Pacers came out to a big lead. Bulls cut it. Bulls took a little lead. Pacers cut it. Pacers took a lead. Bulls cut it. Like, it was like a heavyweight. It was like a
everybody was involved. Kerr hit some shots.
Yeah, Bushler hit some shots. Yeah. I mean, there's even that shot of MJ passing to Luke Longley on the baseline jumper. Like,
yeah. Like, I'm glad. Hey, real quick, Mike. I'm glad they showed that, because when I'm playing Byron in 2K and I'm using that 96 Bulls team, he understands why I can catch that little 15-foot setup shot with Luke.
Oh, Luke had that little cry.
Yeah.
I had to pull that out because Byron gets mad when I hit that shot.
It's called the 2K run.
Sorry, I had to bring it to 2K.
Bill Cartwright, 2K
right.
cheese.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I use the Bill Cartwright cheese. Hey, I'm going to go to you next, Sean, but real quick, what's crazy about these last two episodes, I think for most, especially all our ages, we're all close to the same age, maybe a couple years younger for some, couple years older. Like, we all basically remember exactly where we're at when all this stuff was going down in that last season. So that's what's so crazy. It's like we remember it like it happened yesterday.
Yeah, time stopped. It was like everyone – stop what you're doing, sit down in front of the TV and watch.
Yep.
Like it was true, and could he lose? And that was the ultimate game because it was like, look, there is no tomorrow. This is game 7. He could lose and it would be over.
Yes. And Sean and Mike, I know y'all were rooting for the Jazz that year, but we're going to get to that point. But this Indiana series where I know y'all were watching this even then, right?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, man. We were basketball junkies, just like y'all, man.
What were you thinking this whole time? Did y'all think, man, Indiana may get these dudes?
I thought Indy had them. They kind of reminded me of the tough Pistons team.
Yes,
just hard nosed. Those Knicks, great teams with Patrick Ewing. I mean, they kind of had that mold in them. With the Davis brothers. Travis Best was. I love Travis Best. He had that lefty.
Everybody thought that dude. Like we talk about Kyrie and Steph. Travis Best could handle
was solid,
that.
man.
Yeah,
solid. Yeah, Mark Jackson was on that team. Like it was a underrated squad, and it's unfortunate we didn't get to see him in the finals. We didn't get to see Reggie Miller in the finals.
Well, we did.
I thought they were good enough to win, and I thought it was like 3 minutes left, and they were up 5.
Yeah.
Like, how crazy is that? Like, I think we've all been in games where, I think we got this wrapped up and all of a sudden that big momentum changes and it's a wrap, man. There's no coming back from that. I think they even reference, Michael Jordan became a master of basketball. He knew, how to turn it on once he sensed that momentum was coming. He didn't play a full 40 minutes or whatnot, but once he got you in that momentum, there was no stopping it. Just like I said, it's just a roller coaster.
I'm going to ask your brother the same thing in a minute. Once he goes, were you rooting for the Indiana Pacers?
Oh, of course, I was rooting for the Pacers.
Yes.
And I was a Reggie Miller fan.
Okay, well, I get that. I understand. I understand.
I wanted to see Reggie win one. I wanted to see him in finals. And I thought the Jazz could beat the Pacers, but you never seen Michael Jordan lose in the finals. You knew.
I get it, Sean, because other than the hops, in favor of you, your game was damn near like Reggie.
Right, I love coming off screen.
Yeah,
I can do that all day.
Oh yeah. Now Reggie didn't have the hops like that, but
nah,
I get why you're a Reggie fan. Yeah. Oh yeah. What was he? What was he? He was 6'8", 6'7", right?
Reggie, 6'7",
fucking dude.
Yeah.
All right, I'm coming to you now, Coach Mike. I'm gonna guess I'm gonna ask you first. Who you were rooting for Indiana, right?
Honestly, I wanted the Bulls to come back.
Nice.
It's just the first time I didn't want no excuses. Oh man, but if it was Michael Jordan, this, that, and the other thing. The Pacers, it looked like a good match and all that, except for Mark Jackson backing down stock all game. But just sitting there watching, I was like, I want Jordan to come back in here. I want the best. I don't want no excuses. I don't want, oh, man, if Reggie did this, if Mike would have been here. Nah, the greatest got knocked out on the biggest stage. That's what I wanted. But just wasn't meant to be.
What did you think of this whole series? Like, did you think Indiana actually had a shot to win this thing?
Honestly, I was hot on game 4 when they didn't call the foul. You sit there and watch the replay. I'm like, dude, he pushed him straight in the chest. You get called for less than that. And people got called for less than that during that game. I'm like, dude, come on now. You going to give them the game off that?
How refs swallow the whistles at the end of the games, right?
Yeah, but me and refs don't get along, especially dudes like Dick Bavetta. I'll get into that Dick Bavetta shit later. But Dick Bavetta, man, Some of them dudes.
Was he reffing that game? This Indiana game?
I don't remember. I know any big Bulls game, you usually saw him fuck something up, especially the game sixes, both game sixes against Utah, and particularly 98. 98, he had me hot. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
We're going to talk about both 97 and 98. I'm only starting with this just because this is kind of where episode 9 started with Reggie and the Pacers and stuff. That's why. So we might backtrack, go back to 97, but that's why. Yeah. Pete Toal.
Yeah. Man, I wanted the Pacers to come out with that just because somebody different, like I said before. It's no disrespect to the Bulls. They had already, kind of reached their peak. So I'm like, all right, here's Reggie's chance. He can get a ring. I was a big Jalen Rose fan. I liked what he could do coming off the bench. And I am with Mike, though. I was scared that not that because I knew obviously they didn't call the foul. But I was scared, okay, that push-off that Reggie had on Jordan was going to do nothing but ignite Jordan 10 times worse come, in the next game going beyond. And because Jordan holds grudges against every little small thing. So I don't know. It just kind of broke my heart. I remember sitting there with my dad, game 7, and the Pacers just couldn't pull it out. And I'm like, damn, we got the Bulls again in the finals. I'm like, it's over. Like Utah doesn't have, they're not going to get it. I was like, they just don't have what Chicago has. And my dad's like, oh, you'll be surprised. I think Utah has a good chance. I know we'll get into that, but for the Pacers, I'm like, okay, they lost this. They still got a chance. We all knew what happened. With history, but at the time it was like, okay, they still have a chance. But it just really bummed me out that Chicago was going back to the finals.
Shoot, I just know I remember everything about this series. Like I remember where I was game 4 when Reggie hit the shot on Memorial Day. I was at my buddy's house. We were like before the game, we were playing in the driveway, just hooping. In the game, we went inside and when Reggie hit that shot, of course, my buddy's rooting for the Pacers. He was like you, Pete. He was sick and tired of the Bulls, and he knew I was pissed. So I remember all that. Then game 7, as I said, after the first one we did after episodes 1 and 2, like literally I'm in church that Sunday and the pastor, he's doing his thing up there. And in my head, I'm thinking like, fuck, I hope the Bulls win this game. I wasn't worried about what he was saying when he was giving his whole spiel and thing. I was like, I don't give a fuck about this right now. I'm ready for game 7. Like I was legitimately scared it was over for the Bulls. Like, cause you can see man, fuck you, Byron. No, I'm just being honest. Hey, see, God is going to reward me for being honest about it. I'm being honest. That was my thought. Mind you, I'm a 16-year-old kid. I'm rooting for Michael Jordan. So, of course, that was my thinking. And I remember watching the game, and, we see, like, the Pacers, they were basically leading the whole game, and we saw what happened. And, thank goodness for anybody who's a Jordan fan, they won. And we get the rematch with the Utah Jazz, which is a perfect segue. We're going to jump back now to 97 since that's kind of how the documentary went. We got this Bulls stuff. Then we go to 97. The Bulls, they play Utah. Utah finally gets to the finals. Yes, Byron, we get to see the shot John Stockton hits against the Rockets. And in fairness, Byron, I wanted a Rockets-Bulls series too. That's what I think most people wanted. Because you had Charles and Clyde and Hakeem on the other end. You had Mike, Scotty, and Dennis. We all wanted Rockets. If you would have known me, you would understand this, Byron. I wanted a Rockets-Bulls series. That's not how it worked out. But I'm going to go Coach Mike, I got to go to you first with this because I know this is right up your alley. Pops being on the Utah Jazz that year and the next year. Like, what was like the aura in Utah at that time? When they finally get over the hump, they're gonna play Michael Jordan and the Bulls.
Insane is an understatement. Just that night when Stockton hits the shot, we're going crazy at the house, and not really like understanding. Like nowadays, they're filling up the arena for people to watch a road game just on the jumbotron. Mm-hmm. Like then that wasn't a thing. So we're going to pick my dad up from the airport when the plane gets back. Like everybody's amped up. All the families are going to pick everybody up. There is a monster crowd at the airport for when they get back, like they just won a championship.
Hey, real
So
quick,
it's like
I
a
know I've done a
parade.
lot of interrupting, and I apologize. Let me put out, but this is pre 9/11.
Yeah,
So for those who may not understand, like you could just walk in anywhere. Like these people could just get in the airport and get through the security and stuff like that.
yeah, but
That's crazy.
they were at like the small private airfields, so it was like hundreds of thousands of people just lined up as like a parade. Like cars had to go through a whole bunch of people just to get out. And I remember my dad was so amped up. This is the biggest moment he's ever been on. He's sitting on the top of our car with a Jazz flag, just waving the flag as we're riding through the people. And it's not really funny. It's kind of fucked up. People were trying to get so close. Somebody's toes got ran over trying to just be close to the players in their cars and got their feet ran over. Like, well, if you get out the way, we can all go home. We're all excited, but it was an unreal time, honestly.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Now I'm going to you, Sean, because obviously you were there as well. A little younger than your brother at the time.
Man, I remember watching that game, that Rockets Jazz game at Brian Russell's house.
Yep.
Hey,
Like
was Charlie at that game? Was he at the house with you? Was
he
that
might
what
have been there
Charlie
with us.
talked about?
I think
'Cause I remember
he was there
bringing
with
that
us.
up. Yeah.
And I mean, it's like you're kind of in a bubble when it comes down to that. You don't realize like there's a whole other world out there going through other stuff. But I mean, at that time, it's like this is what we've played, or my dad's played so long for, was to make it to the finals. And I mean, for it to happen in how many times have you hit the microwave 5 seconds and let it count down and shot the last shot? I mean, that's exactly why you play the game. That's why you watch the game. That's why you follow your team. So you can see them win last second. You can feel that sense of joy. And I mean, in every sense of the word, it was just madness, craziness. Like people at school going crazy. Like, I mean, you're instantly like the most popular person in your school.
Nice.
I mean, at that age, you're like, man, you just benefit.
Yep.
And especially for you and your brother, like with your pops being in New Jersey all those years and all the losing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a big difference in atmosphere, man. Like the people around town, it's literally you're going from New Jersey, what you think New Jersey's like, gray and dark and like that, whatnot. Utah, I mean, it's just a lot of white people, but I mean, they're all happy. I mean, really, they're all happy. I mean, it's
There's no
I mean, it's
hood.
the truth. But I
You
mean,
don't have to worry
it's-
about the sirens.
Yeah, nice people, nice scenery, like everything's beautiful. Like the people are beautiful.
This is random as hell. How close are the mountains to where y'all lived?
We were on the mountain, man.
On the side of
you're
one.
like, yo, we're on the mountain. Okay.
Yeah. Like the exit we would get off of was the same exit as one of those ski resorts. And we ride in between like the little, I don't know, you can't really call them a canyon, but it's like down in the foothills. You wind around the side of one and then you just go up the hill that leads up to a mountain.
Is that like how most people live? Like they were on the
Nah.
because of the terrain of you? Like I don't know the terrain. I've never been there.
Nah, it's kind of like Denver. You got foothills, you got cities out in flat space, but the area we stayed was just really a nice area for other kind of people. Just
nothing like Katie.
Nah.
Nah, they had way more money. Like
Oh,
Pops is
damn.
in the league. Pops in the league, and I'm pulling up at school feeling like I'm the broke kid. Like, yo,
What?
yeah.
Oh,
It was like that?
man.
One of my best friends' dad was like the VP of Coca-Cola, and he wasn't even like that. He had loot, but we had kids in my school. This girl's house used to be a castle, had a 2-story bedroom, just shit like that.
A 2-story
felt-
bedroom. Okay.
Yeah, so it felt average. It felt like, oh, I'm not this big time guy. I'm still kind of
Right.
like we were back in New Jersey, just cool.
Nice. Okay. I went there for those, but I'm going to go to you, Byron, and Mike Skills. First, Byron. So we know, like, obviously Utah gets there. They beat the Rockets, and just listening, like, I've been listening, like, I don't remember, like, just totally how the Jazz had played, but, I've been listening to Ryan Russillo and Simmons, like they've been doing their thing. They've been rewatching all these series and talking about it. And Karl Malone didn't have a great series overall in '97. But then let's go to it's 2-2 going into Game 5. We see the story with the pizza and the 5 guys supposedly.
Wait, man. You got to go back. You got to talk Game 1.
I just want to get to the flu game.
Okay.
We're going to go to the flu game.
All right.
No. Hey, wait. Good point. Thank you for bringing that because Mike hits the cash money shot. So we're going back and forth in Game 1. Then we'll get to the fucking Sopranos and the pizza game thing.
Wow.
But so obviously they're going back and forth in Game 1, and Mike. I remember, and they go back into like when Brian Russell comes in. Mike's retired. He's like, man, I would have locked you up. I would have all that bullshit. So Mike's got this in the back of his fucking head the whole time. It was tie game, right? It was tied.
Yeah.
Karl Malone, he misses the catch. He misses the 2 free throws, and he was a good free throw shooter, 74, 75%. Good free.
Got in that head.
Yeah, reliable free throw shooter. Was not shooting foul shots good that game. He shot him bad the whole series. He was terrible. So
but you remember Scotty walked up to him before he shot the free throws. Said,
"Mailman don't deliver on Sundays."
Yep.
And
so
right after MJ missed one free.
Yeah, which sets up the end of the game. So they give us the Brian Russell story, and this is for you, Byron. We know Michael gets it, cash money, game time. We get the fist pump, which Kobe stole.
Yeah.
Not mad at him, but he stole it. Like, I know, what were you thinking, Byron? Like, did you know Michael was going to deliver?
Well, I remember like actually being outside with some of my childhood friends like Josh and others. We were playing basketball in my front yard. And
Real quick, Byron, during the game or before the game?
During the game.
Oh my!
We had already started playing before the game, and so I remember my mom like coming out there like, "Hey, you're not gonna come inside and watch the game? Like the game is on." I was like, "I'll be in a minute." And then I went in and I saw it was tied. And I think I like left the room real quick and I came back and it was over. And by the time I got back,
wow.
Wait a second, Byron. So you didn't see the shot live?
I missed it. I just barely missed it. I walked in the house, the game was tied. I was like, oh snap. Because I'm thinking like, they don't stand a chance against the Bulls. And then I was like, I left the room, I came back. And I remember my mom being like, everybody being like, oh yeah, Mike, he ended it on a game winner. And I was like, wait, let me see this. And I went back and I saw it. I was like, wow, like just like that. Because I thought it was going to go into overtime. So initially when the game aired, I actually missed the shot in real time, but I saw the playback. All because, I was being a kid. I wanted to play basketball too. You brought up something else that I wanted to address. That shot by John Stockton. To this day,
we're talking about against the Rockets, right?
I have not forgiven him. And I think that's why I was like, you know what? Forget this. I was kind of salty, and that's why I don't think I was going to watch the series because
kind of salty.
I was so deflated. I was so upset that it wasn't a Rockets Bulls finals.
Even as a Michael Jordan, even as an all-time Jordan fan, you weren't going to watch.
Yes, because I was so upset because everybody. I have a guy that trolls me. He's out here in LA. He's like, oh, if Michael Jordan didn't retire, they won 8 straight. The Rockets wouldn't have won anything. And I said, I'm sorry that you think Michael Jordan is God. However, do you know the energy it takes? Do you know the wear and tear and the mileage that it puts on you? He was so fatigued when they won the 6th championship. What makes you think he would have won 8 straight? So I really wanted to see that series because all everybody ever talked about outside of Houston was if Mike was playing, then the Rockets wouldn't have won those 2 championships that they won. So
and
that
in Houston, people were saying if Mike was playing, they would have beat the Bulls anyway.
Exactly. So the summer of '96, we get Charles Barkley. I remember exactly where I was when we got that news. I ran outside just screaming, "We got Barkley! We got Barkley!" So the stage was set. And if you remember, the records were pretty close in the beginning of the season. I think they
went 1-1 that year when they batched up twice.
Exactly. So it was the matchup we wanted. Unfortunately, we were lacking a point guard. If we had Vernon Maxwell, we beat Utah in '97 without question, and we played the Bulls. Now, the second part of your
I mean,
question,
if you have Sam Cassell.
Yeah.
at least for Sam Cassell.
Yeah, Matt Max won the point guard. I give you Cassell.
But that's not my point. My point was he was a defender. You think he's giving Stockton that open look? You think?
But
And I blame Charles
But remember, the screen was set. He got
Malone.
because of the screen.
You go back and look at it, you see Barkley talking about. Come on, man. You got out there and defend that.
Well, I see what you're saying, though, is Byron. He didn't step up on the screen.
He didn't even step up. But
You
now
can't blame Matt Maloney for that.
John Stockton had too much time to shoot that shot. If you go back and watch it, how he did it, he had way too much time. Me as a defender, I wouldn't even let him. Soon as he caught the ball, I'd been on him like this. I would have fouled him, man. I would have just fouled him. That's what I would
That was the last time we saw Matt Maloney.
He would have never gotten that shot off, ever. So I just wanted to address that because that game aired on NBA TV. I said, I'm going to watch it. Then I realized,
I'm not watching anymore of
this yet. I can't do it. All these years later, I still wasn't ready.
This is how you know. Byron is an all-time, maybe the biggest Michael Jordan fan I know. He's an even bigger Houston Rocket fan. But let me tell everybody this. He's not a biased Rockets fan. He's not one of those.
Not at all. Not at all. I don't like the current Rockets team. I'm glad you said that just now because as we've been on this broadcast, I have a friend out here who swears that I didn't watch Michael Jordan play. He always argues how LeBron is better. He said, "Oh, you were a little kid. You didn't see him play either." I said, "Yeah, thanks a lot." Because I was 2. He said, "You were a baby." I said, "Thanks for reminding me that I was 2 in 1998."
You were 16 years old and driving a fucking car in 98.
I'm gonna actually send him this link. Did you want me to ask the second part of the loaded question now about the flu game or the?
No. I'm gonna get to. I just wanted to touch on game one. I'm glad Mike brought that up.
Okay.
Real quick, I got to go to Sean and Coach Mike for this one. Just I got to ask what y'all were thinking after game one when MJ hits the game winner. Go ahead, Mike.
Man, honestly, I was hot because Brian's sitting there solid and starts to reach, and that's how MJ got loose to the left. I'm like, no. Yeah. When the shot went up, I was like, it was a wrap anyway. Once the shot got off.
Once I saw him reach, you just you get that look like, man.
When the shot was up, that's game time.
It's going in.
Oh yeah. Once it gets up, you're done.
Right.
If you stay solid,
you can contest. Game one, they had a good chance. After that, it's
that was the one to get.
Yeah,
that was the one to get.
Real quick before I get to the flu game, Mike and Sean, what was the mood like? We're gonna beat these dudes, or was it more of we're just happy to be here? That first year,
no, they were going in trying to get it done. Like Carl's MVP. They had fallen short the year before to with the Sonics. And they were like, man, it's our time. We got to get it done. We had 2 Hall of Famers, an assist leader, steals leader, all time. They weren't trying to settle for less. So I'm like, man, we're not just playing just to get here.
Okay. That's what I was interested in because, sometimes, a lot of teams are just happy to be there, especially you're going against Michael Jordan and the Bulls.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I know what it was the second time. That's obvious. I don't even have to ask that in 98 after what happened in 97. But now, so we got to go to the Sopranos and fucking Pizzagate.
You didn't get Pete on game one. I'm sorry.
Oh, my fault, Pete. Thank you.
You're good. Just, for me, it was when you had was it Pippen and Stockton, trading the 3-point baskets and all that. I'm like, okay, this is down to the wire, and just of course, they find a way to pull it out. But I did want to say one thing going back to the Houston series against the Jazz. If you remember, obviously the Jazz had the early momentum, then Houston ends up winning one. Eddie Johnson hits the game winner to get the second one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
the great Eddie Johnson of Eddie Johnson and Termini on NBA radio.
Right. And so I thought for me, just watching it, because I wasn't like a biased fan either way, just a fan of the NBA in general.
And you were a Sixers fan.
Sixers fan. Of course, they weren't doing shit then, so it wasn't,
you had no horse. You didn't.
Yeah, I had no horse in the race. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, okay, Houston's got momentum. They're going to do all right. And then, Stockton ends up ending it all. But, I was actually glad to see, Utah in there just because of the years that Malone and Stockton fought, and because Olajuwon and Houston had already won. Too, I'm like, okay, give the Jazz a chance, but jumping forward to game one, it was just a back and forth battle that just happened to. Of course, I knew they were going to find a way to pull it out because it's MJ and the Bulls, but not much to really add outside of anything that anybody else said.
Good stuff, Pete. Now we're gonna go to the freaking Sopranos, the 5 guys in the suits and the whole pizza thing, which I think some of that is bullshit.
But that's the thing, though. Like, how many here believe that actually happened?
I think a lot of people do. Like overall,
I
know what I was told, and that I'm not going to say anything about that game. I've told y'all what I was told by someone who played in the NBA. But we're not going there.
I think that's a hater comment, though. But
I don't think it was a hater because even so, if what I heard was true, that shows even more greatness towards MJ.
No, I think that's very fictitious.
There's 2 variated stories that go. You got one where he's gambling in Vegas, and the other story is, I guess he's up in the mountains. I forgot whose house he was at, and he was gambling all night.
Some blackjack.
I can't remember who it was, but he was local and he was gambling. Either way, it was a hangover versus actually having the flu or food poisoning, whatever. Yeah. But Matt, go ahead.
The reason I don't believe it was a hangover from alcohol is because we know this dude would drink and go, and this dude was this dude was like a superhero. Nothing could affect this guy. He didn't have those problems. So I don't know, but that's enough. But we know what happened. The story is, and Tim Grover talks about Michael's longtime trainer. The guys in they deliver the pizza. They got the suits on. It's 5 of them, and all that nonsense. Basically, someone posted a picture of the Sopranos on Twitter. That's why I said that. A bunch of gangsters showing up. The Italian mafia showing up with the pizza. And I don't know where the pizza. Where was the pizza order from? Does anybody know? Y'all, Mike and Sean, you live in. But apparently,
was it Michael's Pizzas?
But apparently, this place was not exactly like gourmet pizza. It's what Simmons and Rosillo were talking about because they've obviously
someplace I never heard of.
Yeah, exactly. So if that's the case, food poisoning, we'll go with the official story. That's what we're not going to play conspiracy theory here. We'll go with the official story.
I mean, we have to.
Yeah, because we have to.
We had
the flu, food poisoning, basically the same damn thing. You feel like shit.
Yeah.
So Mike Skills.
So
you're watching this. I got to know your thoughts just on this game in general.
I'm watching this, and I remember turning.
Real quick. It was game 5, and it's tied 2-2. Right. So this is like whoever wins this game is going to probably win the championship.
Right. So if anybody paid attention to the documentary, Bulls go to Utah. They lose a close game. No, game 4. Game 3 is the blowout. Malone has an ill game. And then game 4 is the close one where Stockton makes one of the best passes ever.
Yeah, because Mike misses the shot and Stockton throws the baseball pass full court to the man.
I don't care how you feel about Stockton. If you respect game, that pass was perfect. Like Tom Brady probably was watching that pass like, ooh. So I remember turning on the game and just remembering Marv Albert saying the story here is Michael Jordan is sick showing up. And I'm like, sick? And I'm like, with the flu. And that's really the problem. Who gets the flu in the summer? But they were like, flu.
Hey, Mike, I'm glad you brought that up because nobody has ever brought that up. This is the middle of June and he's got the flu.
And that's why I love this documentary where they say he didn't have the flu. He had food poisoning. But because it was flu-like symptoms, it was easy to say, it was a very lazy reporting. But to watch the game, you could see it at the beginning. And I believe Jerry Sloan did not know. I believe the Jazz did not know because there's even that scene of the year later where Pippen's on the training table and Phil turns the TV off because it's like, look, black out everything, focus, and worry about the game. So, I honestly think no one outside of like the Bulls and the news that were sniffing around trying to get a story knew that he was sick. And he really looked sick for the first half. And then you kind of see in spurts in the second half where he kind of hit that second gear. And then when he gets that 3 at the end and Scotty is just like, holding him.
Remember, he gets the tip in dunk.
Yeah. And he hits the tip in dunk and he's just like, oh my God. Like
he's ready to pass out.
Yeah. And that's really where like the legend of MJ goes a step higher than a lot of other guys. Like that was like his Willis Reed moment. Like the team needed him. He showed up and he wasn't just a decoy. He actually balled out and had 38. Like that's otherworldly type action. Like I have a toothache right now. And if you see me leaning to the side, it's because I'm putting Orajel in my mouth until I can get in to see a dentist with this COVID. And I can imagine having food poisoning and then going out and playing 40 minutes and scoring 38. I got a toothache. I don't even want to get off the couch.
In the NBA Finals in Game 5 when it's tied 2-2. Outstanding stuff, Mike Skills. Byron.
Yes, sir.
I'm coming to you now.
The
whole flu game stuff.
On
Obviously, Mike was not feeling well.
Well, I'll say this much. I recall us as a family watching the game, you know, as we did. My mom was a huge basketball fan. And I remember, I think even my big sister, she was still living at home, so she's a avid basketball fan as well. We were watching it. And when we see him coming out of the dugout, we heard Marv Albert talking about his condition. My sister said, ooh, look at him. He looks bad. Look at his eyes. My mother, my sister, and I were like, ooh, he sure does look sick. They said, I guess he's not playing. I'm like, well, he is suited up. That performance, outstanding. That last three-pointer he hit, it looked as though that was the last ounce of energy that he had to get that shot off. Fantastic. And I'll say this, I won't be long-winded, but I remember watching Jay Leno maybe a few nights after that, and I remember he was interviewing Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arnold was talking about his wife giving birth, and it was kind of she was having a hard time. And he said he told his wife, come on, baby, pull through. Look at Michael Jordan. Score all the points he scored with the
Hey, Byron, only here are we going to get Michael Jordan and Arnold Schwarzenegger in the same conversation.
I'm a 90s kid.
Absolutely.
But I tell you, Mike played like Michael Jordan was like a cyborg, man.
Hey, Michael Jordan and Arnold was our guy back then.
Exactly. So to see him do that, I'd never seen anything like it. And to be honest with you, I think that was the last game I watched of that series, because when they finally won, I fell asleep. So that's the most memorable game of that. I fell asleep on game 6. So that was game 5, right? That was game 5, right?
Yeah, that was game 5.
So that game is just like cemented in my mind. I was the only one that fell asleep. Even my little brother stayed up and watched it. My mom, they told me, well, the Bulls won, just the FYI. But that performance, nothing like it.
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned falling asleep, Byron, because
there's
been many times that we've been on the video game on the PS.
Don't throw him under the bus now.
No, he falls asleep. That's why I'm not trying to. It happens. That's why I'm not.
One last thing I want to say before we go to Sean and Mike, because I think we need to hear most from them because they were present. I will say this: I do believe Jerry Sloan was aware that something was wrong with him.
I'm glad you had said that, Bart, because I'm going to ask.
I think Marv Albert mentioned it, but he said Jerry Sloan was not going to tell the team. If I remember correctly, this is just my recollection from actually being a 15-year-old kid and watching that game in its entirety. And as for the pizza, do I believe that story? Would I accept the pizza from Five Guys? It depends. Are they like real Italians making it? Is it Chicago deep dish? Like I need.
Hey, good point. Good point, Sean.
Yo.
Real quick before you talk about the flu game, did everybody know he was sick?
Mike, I think you like midway once you saw Pippen carrying him and all that stuff, like we were at the game
before the game.
before the game, nobody. I didn't know. I mean,
Mike, did you know?
unless you interacted with them.
Did you know, Mike? Did they know?
I don't think they knew because they didn't have like the TVs they showed in the locker rooms like that. The Jazz locker room, they didn't have them like that. Jerry was all about business and focusing in.
You think Jerry knew?
I honestly don't think so because whenever I saw him, it was like A to B. There wasn't much in between. If somebody said something to him, I couldn't even tell you if he even knew what they were talking about.
Focus at the task at hand.
Yeah, like I remember seeing like that pregame telecast because we had TVs in the lounge where the families were before games because we always had to be there hour and a half, 2 hours early. And I heard it, but I was like, man, what? He started playing. I was like, man, he faking. If he's sick, he faking. Ain't no way.
Believe it.
You know what I'm saying? You get sick at home, and it's like, let me go ahead and get on this couch, watch Price is Right, get a little soup.
Nice.
And he's out here for 44 minutes and 38 points. Man, that boy's sick. He faking. He walking to the bench with Scotty. He got his arms under Scotty, but Scotty holding him up. All right, he ain't sick. 38 points. He ain't sick.
He was something that game.
Yo,
he was something.
There was something wrong with him that game.
Indeed.
Hey, Sean, because y'all were there, like, what would like the whole when this is going on, and once y'all found out what like Marvin said, the flu-like symptoms, like what were you thinking when this game is going on and Mike's just killing?
Right. So I mean, like I said, we're sitting in our seats. You don't really know
hear that
what Marv Albert's saying. We're just in there like, damn, he's hitting another one. Damn, somebody guard him. Damn, like you're witnessing. It's just like a normal Michael Jordan performance. He just looks like he doesn't feel well. So I mean, somebody that mentally tough, he can get over flu-like symptoms. He's been hungover before. So that to me, that's not even his best performance. So I've seen people go from being passed out on the pool table to dropping 40 points like it's nothing. So I mean, Michael Jordan is a different breed of athlete. And when you have somebody like that, he can get a little IV or something in the back and he'll be fine. I think that the extra Pippen stuff was for the cameras. It's the last man.
That's what I'm saying. Even an average hangover, if you get some food and some drinks in you with rest all day, like after waking up 7 p.m., you should be straight. You're not going to be out there just struggling in pale white on a straight hangover.
And that's 7 p.m. Mountain Time, not Central Time.
Exactly. And he was giving it to us too.
Mike is not happy about that.
But that's the thing. Like I remember obviously being a kid though, but I remember like, okay, something wrong with him. Of course, my dad's not going to explain to me like, if there is what the hell a hangover is, if that's what it is. He's just like, oh, he's sick, like because nobody really knew. Yeah. But I'm looking at him, I'm like, he's sick, like they're gonna lose. And like I'm sitting there laughing, like because at that point it's like the Bulls, I don't want them to win, so I'm just like this whatever. And obviously one of the greatest performances on the court, just kind of where he was. But I think like Mike and Sean said, it was a little exaggerated. Obviously he was sick and there was something going on, but he had Dennis Rodman as a teammate who did all kinds of stuff till 2 hours before practice and just strolls in. So he kind of learned how to get around it, I think. Some tips and tricks, under the table a little bit. But
Dennis was his boy helping him out.
Right. But I mean, you can't knock the performance. You can say what you want about whatever happened. I think as far as the pizza goes, from what I've heard from various interviews and stuff like that, he was pissed off because his team went and ate without him. He spits on the pizza, so it's only for him. Tim Grover and his other people don't get to eat it. Whether 5 guys, 3 guys, however you want to make up, it could be true, but at the same time, it could be just as legitimate if he did end up staying out late and had a hangover. Who knows? All that put aside, it's still one of the greatest performances.
He wasn't feeling well.
Right. It still comes down to it's one of the greatest performances. I mean, at that point where he was as sick as he, was on the court, putting that much effort into still scoring the ball, I did see somebody throw out something like, "Oh, it's funny that he puts in 100% effort on offense, but doesn't do shit else the rest of the game, in any other area of the game." And I'm like, it's still, come on, it's still the greatest either side of the ball. So you can't knock it. As much as I didn't want to see them win, just because, like I said, and I didn't hate Chicago to hate Chicago. I just hated it because they had won so much in so many years. So, I mean, for me at that time, I wasn't alive when the Sixers won the championship. I was born 2 years later, and or basically for the next playoffs. But for me, it was like, okay, Iverson is just coming in the league. They're not going anywhere. So it's like, who really to root for. So I was going for the Jazz to win it.
Nice. Pete Toal live here admitting he was rooting for the Jazz. Obviously, with Mike and Sean, their pops played for the Jazz, so obviously they were rooting for Utah.
But you know what? To put it in proper perspective, it's no different than people hating the Warriors or hating the Patriots now.
Right.
You on top.
You get tired of seeing the same team.
People are like, yo, I can't wait for them to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this because I was in Florida in this series for Game 6. I just arrived a few days earlier visiting my grandparents because my parents were in Vegas. And they were telling me during Game 6 when they won, when Kerr hits the shot, like, Vegas, everybody's gambling. Literally, all those fuckers stopped gambling. They're all at the TVs watching the game. That shows you the power of Michael Jordan. People aren't doing that for LeBron James.
It was a
Kobe.
different era because you knew you were witnessing history. You knew you were witnessing the greatest. The only thing that I can liken this to is maybe my pops or my uncles being such huge fans of Muhammad Ali.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
felt like when I watched Michael Jordan, to me, it felt as though it was the equivalent of how my parents felt when they saw Ali fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, all I knew of Ali was, remember back in the 90s, they would have like these, I think it was like Lifetime commercials, and they have a number, you could order all these, all these VHS tapes.
Mm-hmm.
It will take you through the history of Ali. And
the Time Life video.
Time Life, exactly. And you see him talking like, I'm the greatest fighter, that's he coined that phrase, I'm the greatest of all time. And you were seeing it, and I remember saying like, why is this guy bragging so much? Why is he so? I didn't understand. And my sister and my parents taught me, like, they told me who he was and his importance to not just boxing, but just culture and what he did as far as refusing to go to all of these things. So that was when I watched Michael Jordan, I felt that that's what he was to our generation, what Ali was to my parents' generation. Absolutely. And the commercial, the commercial for the 12s, that's basically what they were saying. Remember how it's like time is kind of going in slow.
Are you talking about where he dunks from the free throw line?
And everything stops. And they were saying the message was, this guy is so good. Everybody's tuned in. Everybody's watching. And I haven't seen anybody.
I would slightly push back because there's 3 guys. To me, it's 3. Obviously, Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, and Tiger Woods. Tiger would be the 3rd.
Well, as far as basketball, I haven't seen.
We've never seen anything like that since. Not even LeBron.
No, not even the great Kobe Bryant.
No.
Not even the great LeBron James.
It's why a few weeks ago I said we were all wondering, like, who's going to take the mantle from Michael Jordan? Is it going to be Shaq? Is it going to be Penny, Grant Hill? No, it was Tiger Woods. It just wasn't basketball.
I think
Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, and Tiger Woods are the 3 greatest athletes we've ever seen.
I would put Serena after Tiger.
And I'll say this for all, me and Pete's people, the hockey fans.
Serena. So we're just going to skip past. We're not even going to acknowledge it.
I said Serena. I said, yeah, you're right. But then we're going to say Wayne Gretzky. I got to throw my people a bone.
You mean Casey Jones from Ninja Turtles?
I see what you did there, Pete. Or Byron, I see what you did there, Byron. I see you.
I was surprised Babe Ruth or something like that.
Well, because there's hardly anybody alive today that witnessed the prime of Babe Ruth. That's why I can't go.
It's like Tom Brady for white people. Like that's what it comes down to.
Tom Brady's the closest to Tiger and Michael and Gretzky now, but I wouldn't compare it. It's close, but no, I wouldn't go there.
I mean, I think I've seen players that have been greater than Tom Brady. Not taking anything away from him.
No, I'm not saying I agree, but I'm just saying that's what it's like for the Caucasian demographic.
Our people.
Our people.
I'm not Caucasian, but I know a lot of them, and I don't know.
Hey, that's why I had to throw us a bone, Pete. Wayne Gretzky, right?
I was an Eric Lindros fan personally, but
I don't know. The great one was true.
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky was the man.
Right.
I didn't watch hockey. I just know he was the man. He was like
I didn't watch hockey, but
he was what Muhammad Ali was to boxing, Michael to basketball, Tiger to golf. That was Wayne Gretzky. That's what I can speak on that. I'm not a hockey fan. No disrespect to any hockey fans, by the way, because I know why y'all go to those games. Y'all want.
Mario Lemieux was up there too, but
they want to see fights. I get that. I'm cool with
the action.
But I think that about wraps it up for the stuff that happened in episode 9. So Pete, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Yeah, I mean, going into
we got now with the next year, basically episode 10, the finals of '98.
Yeah, so you get. I guess we could start with going into the Jazz and just kind of how that series kicked off. Mike, I'm going to go to you. Just kind of leading into obviously having the playing the Bulls the second time, being the Jazz. What was it like as far as for you? Sean, I'm going to have you answer it too. But for you guys living obviously with your dad, having to go through it. And just kind of what the overall atmosphere was just at home, just being around the team first, and then second part of it, obviously I know the fan base was hyped up about it, but just overall atmosphere, just going against the Bulls again.
With them, it was just hyper focused. It was more so than the year before. Like you got a taste of it, and you're trying to get to the ultimate goal, and the fact that we got to rest. You walk through the Lakers, which really hurt at the time as a big Kobe, Shaq fan. But to sit there and wait and pick and choose and watch every game, like my dad used to watch film. It was mostly, you would guess it was mandatory, but he was really just a film guy. Right. And we're looking at every aspect of Pacers, Bulls. Who could be, what's the matchup, how we're going to do things, well, how they're going to do things. I'm just a kid, but still, I'm in it just the same. Like Pops is a goofy dude when he's just like relaxed, and if we go do stuff and buying arcade games and stuff. But this was different. It was like as close as it could possibly be, best team he's ever played for, and we were ready. Like everything was about getting the goal done. Like nobody really talked about it. It was like, hey Dad, it was he's going to work. He's coming home to focus. Just let it be, at least for me.
What about you, Sean? What do you remember? Obviously being younger.
It was a lot of the same, man. I remember, we would be at practice, whenever we could go, and it was business. Like it wasn't no playing around, wasn't no jokes, and your normal locker room type stuff. But you see Jerry Sloan walking in the hallways, and it was straight business. John Stockton, straight business. Jeff Hornacek always coming behind him. Business. Malone coming through, he riding on his little Harley, whatnot. Business. I mean, everything. They would do everything together. I think when the year before, Malone had took everybody on a fishing trip to Alaska. So, I mean, they were a real, real close team. They hung out together. They went over to Malone's house, and they went over to Russell's house. They would go over to each other's houses, and it was just, we got one goal. We're gonna get it done, and we're gonna. I think they thought they could win. They had that second year that they were in the finals. They had a better team. Not many teams get better when they lose in the final.
And even though they had the records were tied, the Jazz had the tiebreaker because they beat Chicago 2-0 that year.
Was it 69 wins, something like that?
No, they were both 62 and 20.
Okay,
62 and 20, I believe. Right, Pete? Or was it 60? They both won 60.
It was 62 and
20.
62 and 20.
Yeah, they were tied, but Utah had the tiebreaker.
Yeah, Jazz had the tiebreaker because they swept the season series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Skills, I'm going to go to you. Obviously, the first game, Utah takes it in overtime. What did you think as far as, were you kind of shocked that Utah got it? And did you feel like at the time, did you feel like, all right, momentum might be on the Jazz's side here?
Yeah, I really was just lost because it was like they just went through this crazy series, this Game 7 win, and 3 days later they lose the overtime game, and I was just like, man, they might get us. Like it's looking hard. And then that Game 2, that was when I was like, all right, we got the split. Cool. It's a series now. We're not down 2-0 going home, knowing that we're going to have to come back to win one. And I was just like, it was a lot because that Game 1 was really good. That was a really good game. Like, yeah, the Bulls played a little sloppy. The Jazz played a little sloppy because they had like a week off. But towards the end, that was a classic finish game, even going into overtime and, came down to a final shot to try and tie. It was a good one. I was really excited, but I was in the back of my mind, I was scared. I'm not even going to front. Like, I was like, damn, they beat us straight up, and like, this might be it, and we may not win. Like, those were the two things. Like, all year we knew this might be the last season of the Bulls, the last season of Jordan. But to like lose two was just like, ooh, man, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this.
What about you, Byron?
I think just the title itself, The Last Dance, people don't always know where it came from. When Phil Jackson handed them out the playbooks for the year, that was what he put on there, The Last Dance. Did they address that in this doc?
They did it like the very first episode, but then we get to a point in this one where we find out, I think it's bullshit. Apparently, Jerry Reinsdorf overruled Krause, and Phil said, "No, I don't want to come back."
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. On that shit. I got to for that shit.
But anyhow, I just think it's very prophetic, that series. I knew as a kid, I said, there's no way they're going to lose because we've been hearing for over a year now the groanings and the talks of this team being split up. But it's a prophecy that Phil Jackson made, the Zen Master made, that definitely came true. It just to see that series, how it started from Game 1 and to Game 3 was a blowout, right?
Yeah, Game 3.
Yeah.
It was Game 4. It was Game 4, right?
Nah, it was Game 3.
They went up 3-1. Was it Game?
Yeah. Game 3
was Game 3.
That's right.
Game 4 was the Rodman game.
Game 3 was the first game in Chicago.
What did they win by? 40?
42.
Damn.
And seeing that and a lot has to be said about Karl Malone. He wasn't my favorite player just for some comments he made and his stance on some things. But what I will say is this: in terms of sportsmanship, he was at to see, certain things. The documentary showed things that we don't always see, like after the game and they're passing each other in the dugout. Even with Reggie Miller in episode 9, it was like, "What's going on, brother? Oh, it's going to be a battle." How cordial they were with each other, how civil they were with each other. Seeing Mike after being beat talk to Malone and Stockton, like, "All right, man, we'll see you next game." Like, "Okay, good game. We'll see you." I love that aspect, and it shows the level of professionalism as well as the level of
respect
that was in there, and the mutual respect. I love that he showed that because that's something we never see. Because I know guys like Pat Riley would tell Magic Johnson and Byron Scott, "I don't want any fraternizing." So you assume that throughout the whole series they didn't speak to each other or anything. But we saw those interactions in the final episode that we never get a chance to see.
Well, hey, Byron, real quick, what about Karl Malone going on the fucking team bus of the floor? Yeah.
That made me respect him more than anything because I know how, and people talk about Duncan being the best of all. Like, watching this, it reminded me. I think if Malone has a ring, maybe people don't say Duncan is better because the guy was that good at bat. He was so good. But speaking on Game 6 and watching that game, was that the question, Pete? Was it about the whole series or?
No, it's okay. You can keep going. Just go ahead.
Go ahead. You're good.
Watching that series and seeing Scotty, with the back injury go out, and him saying that, "Hey, Mike, MJ, I'm done." See, that's another thing we didn't know. We see him grimacing in pain, and we see him come out as a decoy, which was brilliant of them to do. That game, if there's any question to anybody who didn't grow up in that era, they should know he's the GOAT. He was so composed. He wheeled them. I still say to this day, Mike, Sean, if that series goes 7, Chicago loses.
Yes.
Because
I agree.
Yeah.
I could feel my TV. Man, it was like if my TV had the shock, was like a PS4 controller, it would just be rattling with the intent.
After me hitting a 3 on you with Steph Curry, right?
You could feel. Those games were so intense. But that series, so many ups and downs. Again, especially with Scotty's condition, if it goes 7,
it's over.
It's
and Mike knew it too. He knew they would.
Yeah. And that's why he played, and it shows the genius of Michael Jordan. He said he knew that play. He said I knew they'd been running that play, so he said instead of switch, and it was risky because think about it. You got Hornacek who was scorching hot that series. Mm-hmm. You got Hornacek going out if Hornacek goes out and that goes the other way and it goes to Hornacek, it was such a huge gamble for Michael Jordan to do. But to steal that ball and to do, and I'll let y'all talk about the actual shot. I can go on and on and on. Phenomenal how composed he was.
I'm glad you let the shot out.
Given that Rodman is iffy, you really don't know with him. Scotty is down.
Hey, Byron, Dennis was going to Monday Nitro to wrestle with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
But
what
do you think about that?
Hold on, Mike Skills. Hold on, we'll get there.
Shout out to Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire for being at the game.
Spider-Man.
I do want to go back to one thing, and Mike, I want to go to you because you touched on it earlier about Dick Pavetta. Game 6, Howard Isley, the shot that doesn't count. Obviously, it's a clear as day that he got that off in time.
Oh yeah.
How pissed off were you and Sean? That
I was heated is an understatement because it's clear on every replay. If it's today, that's 3 extra points for the Jazz. So now you add that part in, that we got 3+ more.
Right.
And then the next half, Ron Harper gets a bucket that should have been a shot clock violation, but Dick Pavetta just lets that roll. Mm-hmm. So that's 2 extra that shouldn't be on. So what I'm saying. So at the end of the game, not saying that they wouldn't have made an adjustment and made some things happen with the 20 shots that Mike missed during the game, but that's 5 extra points that they got to come from instead of just him getting 2 possessions, score, stop, score, to seal the 6th. And Pavetta just took it upon himself to call it off in the middle of all that craziness at our place. That's what really throws
right.
Like,
our gym.
In Utah.
You know what I'm saying? You at United Center, you might be able to pull that off, but you're going to call that right there in front of the bench.
Not at the Delta Center.
And act like you saw it when it's clear. It's right there on the clock in front of you. If you're actually looking instead of just watching the ball and then seeing a 0 on the shot clock, that bucket's supposed to count.
I don't remember. But if I watched that highlight over again live as it happened, that's the one thing. No, I don't. Would I have if I was if I remember it, would I know watching it now? No dog in the fight. Would I be like, oh yeah, that bucket was good?
Yeah, if you were neutral, you still would have called it.
Yeah, there's no lie in that.
I mean, it wasn't like that's questionable. Like they're just Jazz fans. Like it wasn't anything like that.
Has some legitimate gripes then.
Right. They sent out a letter admitting it was a bad call.
Back then?
I found the letter one day at my mom's house, signed by David Stern, NBA, all that stuff. And it admitted they made a mistake. It
They
had
sent
like a
that
little
to
small
they sent
paragraph.
that to your pops.
They send it
Yeah,
to
they
everybody.
probably sent out to everybody.
Wow, like that's just throwing salt in the wound. Why would
Like
you
the
do that?
last 2-minute report thing that they do.
Yeah,
They
they
didn't do that
kinda
then,
like
though.
They just never publicized it, right?
Oh,
They didn't give it out. Yeah.
They just didn't public. Okay.
But I mean, it was a clear like there's somewhere on YouTube in slow motion, like the ball's about to go in the bucket, the buzzer sounds, and they call it off.
Well, not
Man.
even on Wednesday. ESPN is rebroadcasting the game.
I don't
And
know if I can watch.
If you,
NBA TV doing it right now. I ain't watching that mess though.
but
I understand.
if you watch the game live, you'll see the shot go in, and it's kind of close, and then they replay it right there. And Bob Costas is like, "No, that bucket was good. That's a bad call." Like Bob Costas calls it during the game.
Yep.
And then later on, I think Doug Howlands points it out when Harper makes the shot, and they're like, "That's a 5-point swing, et cetera, et cetera."
It would be like Doug to call something like that out.
Oh yeah. I like Doug because he's not partial. He coached MJ, but still he's just a basketball mind. That dude is just special.
I want to ask y'all something real quick. Just this is completely kind of off topic, but like Ryan Russillo and Bill Simmons, they've been watching all these Bulls games because of this documentary, going back, watching these series, and they noticed something. Marv would always try to take a shot at Michael when he played.
Oh yeah,
because,
that was a given because of the Knicks and
Knicks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that I never noticed it. Was
The
that
Knicks for
true?
like 30 years.
yeah,
Was that true? Marv would always try to take shots.
that
at
was
Michael?
Marv was the Knicks announcer. He just
Right.
like NBC just happened to be extra. That's a New York guy through and through.
Man, yeah. I never noticed back then. Like, you know, because a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. And then all of a sudden you listen to Simmons and Russillo and they're like, yeah, Marv is shitting on Mike most of these days.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Marv was
Michael Jordan has missed 2 shots in a row. What's wrong with him?
Think about it, Matt. That's like you being hired. That's like you being hired to commentate a team you hate that kills the Lakers all the time. You're a Lakers fan. So imagine you're hired to commentate as the Warriors commentator and they're playing the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, Steph's shot is off tonight.
I'm a Steph Curry fan, so that wouldn't happen.
But still,
I get your point.
Matt would have to be an announcer of his hometown team, the Rockets.
Oh man, I'd be lighting into the Rockets. Byron would hate me. Byron, you and I would be best friends.
Born in one city and never for any team that's from that city.
Here we go. Byron, you and I wouldn't be best friends if I was calling Rockets games. I would hate on the Rockets so bad. I really would. I'm not going to lie.
You're not from Houston, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, come on. Go ahead, Pete. My fault.
No, you're good. No, you're good. You're good.
That's on me.
All right. So we get to 42 seconds left in the game. Stockton hits the 3. 86-83 Jazz. Jordan comes down, following possession, cuts the lead to 1 with the layup. That leaves basically, 19 seconds left. Jazz get the ball. Hornacek comes across the screen. Karl Malone posted up. Pretty much MJ says it in the doc. He says that, the whole time, the Jazz have run this play continuous. Karl Malone never has really paid that much attention to me, kind of off the weak side. Jordan steals it. Mike, what went through your mind when that happened?
Oh my goodness! Honestly, they ran that the majority of the fourth quarter, or some kind of variation of it's like 4 up or C. And when Stockton hit the shot, it was Karl on the same block. Yep. He hit the skip over through. But this last time, he didn't get that time because once he got the ball and then Stock starts clearing, he didn't even get a chance to clear out because Mike never left. Mike just got tired of it. He was like, you know what? He's not looking over this shoulder because Karl always looked over the left shoulder. He never thought about baseline. And it was just perfect timing for Mike. And honestly, it was the most gut-wrenching time just sitting up there because we got to go to all the games for this series, all 6. We got to go to Chicago. We got great seats because Pop switched seats with Scotty's wife. So she's up there with like, I don't know if it was her sister or her friends, but she's next to me. And it's happening. And I'm like, oh my God, there's nobody here to be like, oh shoot, Mike's got the ball and there's no timeout. It's just them out there and you feel it what's happening. It's just like game 197 all over again. He's on the left wing. He's got the rock. Greatest player ever. It's like you feel the end coming.
And Brian and Russell's guarding him.
Yep. Same spot, just different uniforms, different gym. And honestly, I swear, the gooseneck at the end where he's holding it, I swear that felt in real time, it felt like 30 seconds. And you watch it live and like, dude, that was so much longer than that when I was 13 years old.
Did you know, like when Mike stole the ball from Carl, did you know, he's coming, he's going to hit the shot.
Everybody knew he was taking
no doubt.
Did you think being in at Delta Center, did every Jazz fan in that arena know, like, yep, this is it? You
could hear the big sigh, the big when Carl's on the way down and Mike gets the ball. It's like, it was a wrap.
You think the entire arena, they knew?
Everybody knew.
Everybody.
Like, it's on your face.
He said it's on your face.
You can't. Yeah. Like, where we're sitting at, we were maybe like 20-something rows up, and like we had a perfect view of
that shot.
Karl Malone getting the ball on the post and Jordan tripping.
Were y'all on like the baseline or the side?
We're behind the Jazz bench.
Okay.
And so like we see, like, so we're just kind of elevated, but I can see Michael Jordan getting ready to steal the ball. Mm-hmm. And like I'm just a kid, but I know what's gonna happen. He stops at the block and waits.
He never moved.
And then move. And I'm like, please don't pass it. Please don't pass it. Because after Stockton hit that shot, like, I'm thinking we're gonna win. I got the trophy in my hands. I'm pissed.
It's over. Utah's winning game 7.
Right. Oh yeah. No doubt about
Scotty couldn't move.
No doubt about it. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as Jordan gets the rock, and I just stand up. Like, I mean, I guess everybody else did, but like I remember standing up and waiting for Jordan to make his move, and he shoots it, and everybody does the same thing. And unless you were a Bulls fan, there were a couple Bulls fans in there. Mm-hmm. Like everybody just puts their hand in their head, and it was a wrap. Like,
did it to us again.
We knew it was going in. As soon as he got it here, it's money.
Oh my God.
Weren't gonna stop it.
Go ahead, Byron.
Like,
Byron.
If you remember afterwards, I think Stockton also had an attempt at a 3.
Yeah, it was John Stockton.
Yeah, right. At the very end, you're right.
What did y'all think? Did y'all think it was over? Because there was still time left on the clock. I want to know what was your reaction, and how did your dad, if y'all are allowed to say so, how did he really feel when that happened? Because I'm sure that was a very hard loss for all of them.
I thought they could have ran a better play.
Yeah.
Like, I think the out of bounds play, like, you got to come up with something better than that. Run your best play you've been running all year from there.
Get something to the basket.
Yeah, for Jerry Sloan to have 5 seconds is a long time. To not have something pulled up to where you can get a better shot, like, you got to do something. Like, that's just.
Now, as a coach, now years later, I could sit here and see it. But you sit and think about 97 Game 6, sideline out of bounds. You only got 2 guys that everybody knows is going to get the ball. And really, on sideline out of bounds, just really get it to Stockton. And they threw it away. Kukoc gets to dunk to seal the game from Game 6 of last year. This one, you see John making a concerted effort to come back to the ball and then run screen and roll. That's what Stockton alone is based on. For 20 years, it's them 2 screen and roll. So you get the ball to John, them 2 screen and roll at the top, and hope he makes the shot that he made against Houston. It just didn't feel like it had the greatest chance of success because the whole fourth quarter was, hey, let's eat this clock, let's throw it to Carl on the block, and let's see what happens from there. But with 5 seconds left, you don't have a whole lot of time to do that for Carl. You try and get something up on the rim, and maybe Carl gets the rebound, gets the tip in, maybe Brian gets a tip. But nope, that's just how it went, and it really hurt.
Deflated the entire fucking arena.
Yeah.
I feel like
before Delta Center was the loudest place like you could be. Like,
that was probably the at that time, Utah Delta Center was the toughest, was the best home court advantage in the league.
It was loud.
Hands down.
You could have a conversation across the arena. It was so quiet. It was almost like George. It was in slow motion. Like I just remember standing in the aisle and Jordan's move. It was all in slow motion, and it just seemed like Mike said it lasted longer than just a couple of seconds because it was just Michael Jordan, like Space Jam, how he jumped from half court. It was just like that. Like it just.
It just took forever. Dude, he was there.
It was the sweetest shot you ever seen.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie about that.
Sweet. Didn't touch anything but the net.
Honestly, that night, Pops, he was dejected and he was hot. But honestly, it was more like if we could have just got to 7. Scotty was hurt. He knew Scotty was hurt.
And you know what's crazy? We as fans, we didn't know.
Your dad knew Scotty was hurt.
No, I knew Scotty.
Because it was the first bucket of the game, and you could see him wincing.
We know because he fell on his back in an earlier playoff series, so we
taking
knew he was
charge.
Hurt. We didn't know as fans, like to the extent of it.
Well, they mentioned it at the beginning of the telecast.
Yeah, they did.
And then we see him go up on that dunk on Hornacek. You see him down and go.
Yeah, he winces and then can barely run up the court.
And it's like, oh damn.
Yep.
He's not 100, but he's still 6'7".
What was the locker room like after that loss? Did y'all have access or no?
We had about our normal access, but at the same time, everybody, including myself, it was just down. It was the greatest chance you had. This team that went through so many different things and trying to get different guys. They tried to trade for Ronnie Cycli to think he was going to be the thing to put you over the top. But it came back to just the guys you already had. And your one great chance to get the great one to 7 and possibly beat them because they were going to be down. There was no way Scotty was going to be Scotty for Game 7.
No, he was going to play, but he wasn't going to be Scotty. He
was going to be a real decoy that they were going to do hopefully do something different. But Sloan was just going to be Sloan and ride or die with what he came with. Because nothing deviated, even knowing that Scotty couldn't move all that well.
It was always going to be Karl Malone and John Stockton.
I just didn't understand that final play. I obviously know it's going to Stockton's hands, but why not try to attack Scottie Pippen and get to the lane to get something? Like take him off the dribble. You know, he's not going to be able to move. At least get something to where you can get a step, kick it out, or even get to the rim, try to draw a foul, something.
You got to look at their team. The only dude who was literally able to drive freely was John. John and Karl, the only two that were making something happen with the ball versus everyone else just being, hey, you go screen, pop. Screen, go get the rebound. Screen, go hang out over here. I'm going to kick it to you if your guy steps off. It wasn't that guys couldn't do these things. You never really saw him because it was John's got it. He's going to do his thing. It's just why he's like 7,000 assists away from everybody.
Offense.
Right.
Word
it's like Steve Nash.
How that affected Brian Russell? Any word? Like, did y'all see anything like moving forward, or is there anything he said to you? Because, I mean, I think there's other guys that could have put Shandon Anderson on Michael Jordan. Word? Do y'all know how that affected him? Or
it couldn't affect him that much. He went to Washington to go play with Mike.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I mean, like in that moment, like, did you see a difference as to how that affected him, that series?
To be Russ, nah, Brian was still going to be Brian. Play hard. He came up through the mud because he played defense. That's how he got his start with that squad. Because our dad's first year there, Brian was a young guy on the bench. Pops came in from New Jersey starting, and Brian took a backseat. He was already second string. Now he's seriously on that bench. And then he fought his way into the lineup. It wasn't going to change him. It was just the greatest player to ever play, the guy that you idolize, beat you with a perfect shot. Like, yeah, it's a pain in the ass that's all people bring up, but more so that they keep calling him Byron versus Brian.
Yeah,
that kills me.
That would make me mad.
You look at his name, it's clear that it's not Byron.
Byron. So they would. I remember that. I was, it's so funny. Matt, I think, touched on him being a rookie and wanting to go at Mike, and getting the opportunity. He became like, the pre-Michael's first retirement. I guess you would say his sacrificial lambs were John Starks and Craig Elo. Brian Russell became like the Craig Elo of the late 90s.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, Byron, because that's actually a very good point.
Yeah, he was always on the receiving end of a Craig.
Here's the thing, though. I wouldn't say it was necessarily Craig Elo. We just remember Elo because Mike hit the jumper. But John Starks was really the sacrificial lamb.
We got to stop you right there, man. Craig Elo got dogged in 88, 89, 92.
Oh, so Byron, it really
in
was.
93, the Cleveland, they got Gerald Wilkins, and he got dogged.
Wait, and then the 69 on Elo, Mike said that he couldn't even believe he was scoring all that points. So he said, I start telling Craig what I was going to do.
So it was Craig Elo and John Starks. It was Craig Elo and John Starks.
Yeah, it was Craig Elo, and later on, it was like it was Brian Russell. It had to be Brian Russell.
You know what it was? Because Mike said it in the documentary when he remembers Brian Russell making those comments. So every time he goes against Brian Russell, I will drop this dude. I don't like this.
He said I told Carl and John, like, y'all better tell this boy, like, you better tell him.
Hey, Byron, I gotta ask you this, man. What is wrong with Brian Russell saying that? Because we know is Mike the most petty player in NBA history?
Him and Kobe Bryant were petty as hell. Both of them. I think it might be a top. Oh no, another petty one was Larry Bird. Larry Bird was petty. He was very petty. Very, very petty.
But you have to think why Brian Russell would say something like this. He would say, yo, you retired. If you hadn't retired, I'd bust your ass. He was thinking Mike was done. He was thinking he was
30, he was almost 30. Yeah.
Yeah, he was playing, like, again, MJ was playing baseball. It was like, I'm never going to play this dude.
He came back.
Thinking,
he wasn't the same guy when he came back, right? He was still fucking good, but he wasn't that Mike. First 7 years.
No. Let's stop. Let's stop right there. He was
MVP.
MVPs.
No, I'm talking about 5 Mike. He wasn't that Mike, but he was still fucking.
But here's the thing. Byron says this in 94 when Jordan is retired.
You mean
he doesn't think MJ.
Right. Come on, skills.
Right.
Just
right. Sorry. He's saying this while MJ is retired in 94.
You're cracking up.
Yeah. Sorry, Pete. Sorry, I'm fucking up his name. My bad. But if you say this to somebody when he's retired, you're not thinking about this 3 years later when he comes back.
You don't think he's even coming back.
MJ is like, oh yeah, you remember that time you said you would bust my ass? You got to get your chance right now.
On the biggest day, your day. I mean, it's funny. I think as a competitor, Matt, you asked to answer your question, what was wrong with him? I feel if Sean or Mike or Pete or Mike Skills were in a gym, I'm talking about when you're young and Kobe Bryant walks in, we're talking about pre-knee injuries, Achilles, all of these things. You mean to tell me you're not going to go and he say, ball up, let's go play 21.
Yeah,
play
absolutely.
I was still, even me at my age, I was still hoping now that I live in LA, when I moved here, I said, I just know one day I'm going to go into a gym because I was running to celebrities all the time. And I said, Kobe's going to be there. And I'm going to be like, ball up.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know when I'm never going to get it. I will tell Kobe, because that's the closest thing I'm going to ever get to play Michael Jordan is, because Kobe, there's a 4-year age difference between us. He was 4 years older than me, man. He rests in power. But I'm not playing Michael Jordan and knocking on 60 years old.
Byron, tell everybody what you told me when you met him. You think he will still give you work.
When I met him and we shook hands, I said, Mike, and just him standing that close to me, like us shaking hands, him saying like, what up, dog? I'm like, This dude looked like he'll give you a 30-piece no biscuit like today.
Right now,
what's crazy?
Right now.
What's crazy is I forgot the outlet that put it out, but you remember 4 years ago he said he basically beat any of his Hornets players one-on-one. They just put it out like it's brand new and quoted it. And Miles Bridges' dumbass, he comments as like, "Yeah, I want to see that happen. I want to play him one-on-one." And I'm like, dude, first of all, that was 4 years ago. Second of all, you know damn well you suck, and all you are is athletic. So Michael Jordan's going to school you all day. Like, he's not a defensive player. Defensively, Miles Bridges is terrible.
Michael would draw fouls all day on Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges would jump at the fake every time.
There's nobody on the Hornets currently that's going to beat Michael Jordan. I'm sorry.
You don't think even at like damn near 60, you don't think any of them could take him?
No. Just because of his mental capacity as far as skill-wise in the post, being able to know what he can and can't do. You don't think Michael Jordan still plays to this day just
I'm pretty sure
playing around? Like, so
dude,
come on.
Dude, I'm
getting
gonna
that
tell
up.
Not at 60 though.
before I moved to Houston, Elijah Wan and Moses Malone would still be playing at Lifetime Fitness, looking like, and really hooping. Not like the dream. He's not the dream anymore, but he can still go. If Dr. J is 70 years old and he's still dunking, but not just like putting it in, like still getting some lift. I don't know how on earth this guy is this old and he's still getting up like that. I definitely think Michael Jordan could give like the average ball player in the gym. He'll definitely give you buckets.
He said the average ball player in the gym.
Jordan.
What you say, Mike?
You're not gonna make the mistake that Brian Russell made by disrespecting him and just being like, "Man, I'll bust your ass."
Well,
No,
not in those words, but me being in my 30s and him, me being in my 30s and him being knocking on his 60s, I'll absolutely play with him. But
but that's the difference.
He's so competitive.
He's gonna play with you too, and then turn it on.
Right. I wouldn't.
Y'all remember that video? Like it's on. You can see it on YouTube. Mike's playing in jeans. He's got a collared shirt on. He's at like some gym and a camp he's doing, and this dude's guarding him, and Mike's playing this dude one-on-one. Mind you, Mike's probably in his 50s, and he's just scored on his dude. Fade away, cash. And you can hear the dude recording in the background, just laughing at their boy for getting his ass busted.
My cousin told me that he was playing in some summer league. This was like in the early 90s. And he said, Mike comes in the gym just playing around. And he said Isaiah Thomas was there too. He said he told me they went at it. And he told me straight up, he was telling me, he said, Byron, he said, Mike talked so much noise. He said, this guy's so arrogant. He said, but he said, when I tell you he could go and he backs it up, he said, there is nothing you can do. And he said he was giving Isaiah, he said, I can tell you this much. They really hated each other. He said, but he was giving Isaiah problems. He was giving him that work. And he said he talked so much noise.
Zeke is an all-time great.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sean and Mike, did your dad tell you any stories about like what it was like to guard him?
Other than when he got elbowed in the chest during the finals, there wasn't a whole lot of stories. Like,
yeah, I mean, he never really talked about it. I mean, he would say, he got a lot of calls his way. There were certain people you couldn't really touch.
Hey, we saw you.
He
socks Reggie in the face, and Reggie got tossed.
Yeah.
So do you think that your dad does?
He hit Reggie, but he didn't get ejected, but he got suspended one game.
He did. Yeah, he did. I remember that.
Do you think that your dad doesn't like him, or?
I don't think he puts too much to mind about it. It's just an opportunity that was missed. You get to the highest stage where you're that close to your dream, and it gets snatched away by the best to ever do it. He was hurting, but just to be personal about it don't matter. It's another person that got in the way of the conquest.
Let me ask you and Sean this, because we're gonna go to the Bulls and kind of how they broke up the team in a minute. But I wanted to talk about the Jazz because obviously with Jordan being gone the next year, it was kind of thought that hey, the Jazz could make a run back again to the finals. If I remember correctly, was it who did they play first round?
And it was,
I know
they had all that rest because of the shortened season.
Right. You had the lockout season.
And Malone was MVP again.
Sacramento, they ended up beating Sacramento in the first round. You go against the Blazers in the second round. Just do you guys remember just anything about that playoff run? Just kind of what the atmosphere was. Anything you could share mindset wise, anything like that.
Well, that year for us, we were back in Houston, and my dad played with the Suns. Right. That was his last year, so we didn't get any of the Utah Jazz buzz because we were so concerned about trying to get Jason Kidd and Phoenix. Rex Chapman through that first round, even if they got there, but they lost first round in four games.
Portland. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they got swept.
And that was just that tough. Damon Stoudemire, Wallace, them dudes they looked like they were going to be the next one up, but it was odd to think that we weren't going back. You were that close. Right. You have an opportunity to get the same guys back and actually do it without having to go against the guy that ran the league for the better part of 2 decades.
Don't make it.
But business, man, and if you're not on Sloan's good list before you get in there, it's gonna be a struggle.
So Sloan was he was the mastermind. He picked the team.
I think he had some kind of say in it.
Yeah. Layden did his thing, but if you don't get along with Scott.
Here's what's crazy to me. How is it that, basically, Darren Williams won the battle with Jerry Sloan? How does that happen?
I think Jerry's health had something to do with it. He was a little bit older by then.
He was getting older.
They chose Darren Williams over Jerry Sloan.
Jerry was getting toward the end of the run. It had been almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we were trying to get this young guy who could lead the franchise for as long as John and bring in a new era of basketball. You keep trying to run.
No, Darren Williams was the fucking man.
Yeah, he was good. Just the ego just was.
Let's be honest. There was a legitimate debate, and many people, not just some, many people said he was the best PG in the league over Chris Paul.
It was Chris Paul, the debate, him and Chris Paul.
I had Darren Williams hands down.
Yeah, there was a stretch where Darren was just unreal. He's a big body, could shoot it, get to the rim, dime it off. Chris just couldn't score like Darren could at that time, and Darren was trying to prove a point. He had always had that chip on his shoulder from high school.
Because, you remember in high school because he played with Bracy Wright. Bracy Wright's the number one player in the country. Darren Williams wasn't even a McDonald's All-American.
Yep. And Darren had that chip on his shoulder so much that he cost him in high school playoffs. Trying to be the hero instead of giving it to Bracy, smoke the jumper, and then they lose in the semis or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Hey, that was the Colony, right? They went to the Colony.
Yep.
In Dallas.
So diving into the Bulls and just kind of how everything ended. Obviously, Jerry Krause comes out at the beginning of the year. No matter if Phil goes 82-0, this team's done. We finally get to hear, Reinsdorf say, what he said about, hey, it was just too expensive to kind of bring these role players back. Scotty kind of was looking for a big contract. There was no way that we could afford to bring him back. The injuries there. Then, you get Michael Jordan's reaction saying, hey, I would have went for 7. I would have found a way to convince Scotty, to come back. And just, I think everybody across the country was just in shock whenever it was a reality. Obviously, you had the lockout season, so it wasn't really till January that we found out.
And they would have had all that time off.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Would have found out. Well, basically, it was, I think, mid-January. You find out Jordan's not coming back. Meanwhile, I did not remember this until, that they brought it up. But Jordan ends up cutting his hand or cutting his finger open on the cigar thing. I didn't remember that.
Neither did I.
And
so he went to his camp, and he told me that when he went to Michael Jordan's camp, he said one of his fingers always remains like this. And I said, why? And he told me because he was shooting around with him, and Mike had said that he cut the nerve, and trying to cut a cigar, he cut the nerve in his finger. So they said his fingers are, and this was like the year before he came back and played for the Wizards.
Right. Skills, I'm going to go to you first. Just because I know you touched on it earlier that you had a lot of thoughts about kind of how they broke that team up and just, the end of a dynasty. What was your reaction to all of that in real time back then?
My reaction then and now are on different sides. Then it was, why would you break it up? Why are you ruining what could go on for years or at least another year? But now, having watched the documentary, read a lot of stuff on it, the moment that Krause said, "This is it. I don't care if you go 82-0," it was over. Like, that was saying that season was the end. Whether Phil, I believe Reinsdorf might have gone to Phil. Phil didn't want to rebuild. Reinsdorf was about his money. He wasn't going to pay Jordan $36 million, then have to give Scotty $20 million, then have to give Dennis $12 million. Like, it wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't. So I think if Krause doesn't say that before the season and there's not this drama going on, maybe. But yet and still, the way it ended, it had to end that. Like, that had to be it. It had to be the end. I mean, as much as I don't want to admit it now, then I didn't want it to be over. But now I know, like, yeah, it had to end. Like, there was no way it was going to get any better than that. And just the business of basketball. I mean, you look at the Warriors. It's the same reason Kevin Durant had to go away. He was worth too much to the team. They could not afford to pay him, pay Draymond, pay Clay, pay all these guys. And that was what was going to happen with the Bulls. They were just, it wasn't going to happen. Now, do I believe they could have won 7? Possibly. I think they would have had a good chance being.
They would have at least got to the NBA Finals that year.
I mean, Mike with the finger, that's a monkey wrench in it. You have to think about that.
With the back.
Mm-hmm. Well, Scotty was okay in '99. Dennis was done.
I wouldn't say no, because Dennis played 35 more games. He played the games with the 23 with the Lakers, 12 with the Mavericks. The dude averaged damn near 15. He would have had Phil and Michael.
You got to go back to a lot of teams didn't want to take on his personality and the antics that come with it.
That's why the Bulls, I think, could have handled him. I think Dennis, would have been fine. Physically, he was fine.
Yeah, physically he was fine, but I think you were seeing him get further and further away from the team. I mean, he went to go wrestle in the middle of the finals. But let's not downplay that, because I forgot that as a kid.
Hey, what's great? It wasn't even a pay-per-view. It was Monday Nitro.
Yeah, it was a regular episode. Yeah, they just won by 40, but you in the finals, and you gonna go fly to go pretend hit another man with a chair and hang out with some
DDP.
Yeah, like, okay, all right, I get it. Dennis was.
If I'm not mistaken, that was that. I think it was after the pay-per-view where him and Hogan fought DDP and Karl Malone. And if you pay attention to wrestling, the Monday after the pay-per-view, whether it's Monday Raw or at the time Nitro, they always had to come in with a segment. Obviously, we know Karl Malone wasn't there, but Dennis showed up.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things that you always see at the end of dynasties. You see the signs. That's kind of how you can see things ending with the Patriots and see things ending with the Warriors and other dynasties. It's like you see it. You see the toll it takes on the body, the mental. Yeah.
But with Belichick and Tom Brady's little beef.
Yeah, exactly. You see little beefs, and resentment. It's like winning cures all. But at the same time, when you win, you reset and you're like, oh, I still don't like this person. I still don't get along with Jerry Krause, even though he gave me my first coaching job. I still don't get along with Jerry Krause, even though he drafted me from the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, and made me one of the, gave me the opportunity to be one of the 50 greatest. I don't like Michael because he's always calling me short, but he's the best player on the planet. Like, no matter what happened, those wounds were not going to heal right then and there. I'm glad at the end, Scotty gave Krause his props and Phil gave Krause his props and MJ and everyone. But They just had to split. That there was no fixing that deep rift. Like they had beef with Jerry Krause for a decade. A decade. Like I don't think that gets said enough. Like imagine going to work with somebody for a decade that you don't like.
Right.
Like
Happens every day.
what's that?
Hey, Mike. Wait a second, Mike. Every day?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
That
decade.
beef went longer than a decade.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So imagine that.
85, the 85, 86 season.
Yeah,
How
but
deep
seriously,
it really is.
seriously, Scotty had beef with him since his rookie year in '88. Phil had beef with him since what, 92, 93 maybe? Like that beef had been brewing. Like even Rodman is like, I didn't know it was beef until I got there. And I was like, oh damn, it's fucking drama everywhere in this. Like we play the game for free. We get paid to deal with all this bullshit, you know? And that's just the reality of it. It's just Krause was a great GM, but his ego wanted to be one with the team got in the way. MJ was the greatest, but he picked on Krause too much. Like two things can be true. MJ is the greatest, but don't treat the GM like shit. You know?
I gotta disagree with you on that one.
I was gonna say, Byron, what's your thoughts on as far as
I have to disagree.
running it back? What do you think?
Me?
Yeah, you.
This is how I feel about it. For one, as a grown man, you, especially when it's not when it's within the confines or the parameters of your contract, you can't tell a man what he can't do. This man, I read an article in Michael's book, he said he went to play in a charity game after he'd had the surgery, after the injury with his foot. And he said Jerry Krause and Doug Collins, I believe it was, maybe not right after the foot, a few years after, he said they came to a game, a charity game. They threatened him. They told him not to play. He played anyway. There's things they did not show in this documentary.
Right.
Jerry Krause was trying to control him. And that's the reason why. And Doug Collins might have been there because I think they were courting him on to coach the Bulls. And they were telling him, but he said he'd signed a clause. He had a clause in his contract.
Yeah, love of the game.
For the love of the game clause, meaning he could play anywhere because he wanted to work on his game. So it's deeper than just a Scottie Pippen's contract, or they didn't want to pay me this amount of money, or he limited my minutes. There's so much more to it. I would also say that I will credit Jerry Krause with drafting Horace Grant and moving the pieces around and making and negotiating so that Scottie Pippen could become a part of this team, because you don't win those 6 without Scottie Pippen. No. I'm sorry. You can say he went down with the migraine. You could insult him for that. You could ridicule him for the whole back thing, whatever you want to say about him. Michael Jordan does not win 6 rings without Scottie Pippen. So I will credit Jerry Krause with that part. But as far as what was the comment you made, Mike? I'm sorry. You were saying something that
I was saying that MJ was calling him short.
You were saying that Mike was too rude to him. Nah, I disagree, because I think it was really appropriate because this guy did a lot of things to him to make him not like him. And I feel, honestly, Michael Jordan treated everybody, with the exception of Charles Oakley, the same way. Yeah. If he didn't respect you, you're going to be ridiculed. You're going to be talked about until you stood up for yourself. Notice, he didn't play that with Phil Jackson. That's why I credit Phil Jackson.
He didn't do it with Cartwright.
He didn't care if Shaquille O'Neal. If he sat you down and told you to go to the end of that bench, that's what you had to do.
Yeah.
So, and also, the only time we see him be defined was Phil Jackson. He's like, no, I'm not switching. I'm staying right there. I'm not switching. That's the only time ever.
But that's not even really defiant. That's
in the heat of the moment. You want to take the best.
Yeah, so you in the heat of the moment, and it's like, look, I see something out there you don't. I got this. Versus Pippen saying, I'm not going in the game.
Yeah.
But Jordan tried to get Krause fired. He could not get him. He went to Reinsdorf and said, fire this motherfucker.
Usually a player of that magnitude will get a GM fired.
Krause, I'm convinced Krause was Jerry Reinsdorf's boy.
Let me finish.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
However, without Jerry Krause, you still might not even get Dennis Rodman in there.
True.
Well, hey, and he drafted Horace Grant.
That's what I said. He drafted Horace Grant out of what, Clemson? People forget it. He was ACC Player of the Year. So, I mean, there was a lot of finessing. There was a lot of negotiations. You have to credit him for that. Now, on the flip side, he should not have dismantled the team the way he did. I believe that often you do have to start looking towards the future. And you do know that teams will not stay together and they won't win. You know, look at how the Pistons, look what happened to them and how their dynasty ended. So
Warriors
stay forever. And just as a man, as you get older, like you talked about Serena earlier, I think her coach was saying since she had her child, her focus has now been divided. That's why she's not playing at that same level. As a man, it's even with your friends, let alone a team, things happen in your life that kind of can pull you and deter your focus from the game of basketball. You're not gonna stay constructive for so long. Life will change you, and it'll change how you even feel about the game. And you won't always stay together forever. But when you find a unicorn like Michael Jordan, you need to ride that thing out. You need to ride a wave like that is Michael Jordan. The tsunami that is Michael Jordan. You got to ride that thing out until it's no longer a wave.
What you're saying is you ride Michael Jordan until they lose.
Until they lose.
I agree.
Do they beat San Antonio?
Maybe not.
I saw a game they played. They went to overtime, and Mike hit a buzzer beater, and they beat them. But it was going to be very hard.
That was going to be a 7-game series.
To defend a David Robinson in his prime and a young Tim Duncan. I don't know what you do with that.
And here's the thing: what people don't remember,
he's kind of like a Hakeem.
Yeah.
You're not going to necessarily just throw him off. Even a young Tim Duncan was very.
But remember, Tim Duncan as a rookie was first team All NBA.
Exactly, and he has such composure. Like Hakeem had, like Shaq and Dennis Rodman said, there was nothing they would say to Hakeem. They'd be like, "Oh, they're talking."
Hey, Dennis was not getting under Tim Duncan's skin.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't think Mike. You don't think he's not getting under Timmy's skin? Is
Nah, young Duncan was a different issue. It's like he grew up as a swimmer. Like trash talking didn't do anything to him.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, before his rookie year, we went on a basketball without borders trip with my pops to St. Croix, where he's from, and he's dominating them dudes, but he's just stoic Tim Duncan. Like that wasn't something that, Game of Zones, the soul box. Nah, that was just Tim. He came to the clinic the next day just talking about working hard and, I wasn't always a basketball player. I just started to focus, and it's just an even keel human being. He's just how he looks now is as wild as it gets, like with the hair and all that, but he's still the same Tim Duncan, just as even. Yeah, there wasn't any bothering Tim Duncan.
Not even Dennis.
And the only reason they didn't put up more of a fight against the Jazz was because David Robinson got knocked out. If Carl doesn't elbow David Robinson in the face, they might go 6-7 maybe.
I remember that game. That
was so nasty. That was just like the end of it all right there. Once he went down, there was no fight left in that group. But to put it like that, Mike, I would still have wanted to see it. Like you don't just stop in the middle of it. It's like if the Celtics on the way to 11 out of 12, 13 years, we're just like, nah, we're not going to bring Bill Russell back. Hey, Cousy, you're good. Yeah. We're going to ship you off to Kansas City where you end up going.
Yeah.
And to think that Mike was too tough on Jerry. Jerry wanted to be a bigger part of the organization. Mike treated him like he treated everybody else. Scott Burrell caught hell as a rookie. Jerry was there 10 years, and you want to be a big part? You want to act like you had a majority to do with this? I'm going to treat you just like everybody else. Come get this same action that you think you are better than us because you did your job. Thank you for doing your job, but you want to be in this limelight, you're going to get in this limelight.
Crazy? It's completely the opposite now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
LeBron has the most power of any superstar in the history of the league.
Juice.
How many GMs has LeBron fired in Cleveland?
I would go GMs. I'd just say coaches. Like let's
Yeah, but Blatt screwed himself though. LeBron didn't even fire him. It was just the players across the board didn't even he didn't even know how to draw up correct plays. Having two players in designing a play for two players for the same action.
LeBron was basically the coach of that team.
I mean, until Ty Lue got there, but he respected Ty Lue for the fact that Ty Lue played. So
he was a champion.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, you could argue all day long as far as eras go. But Sean, I wanted to go to you because you didn't get a chance to answer. What do you think as far as bringing it back? Would you have brought it back?
I think at any time you can get more Michael Jordan, you take more Michael Jordan. I think nobody's going to argue you down whether they wanted to see another season of MJ and the Bulls because that was the Beatles. I mean, of course, you want to see them go until they lose. What do you do when you go play pickup? You run the court until you lose.
Right.
That's right.
You don't get off the court. That's and I think that's how MJ would see things too. If you ask him, does he want to go? Does he want to try it again?
Documentary. He is fucking pissed off that he didn't get to run that back. That's I think his biggest regret in his career. We didn't get, and we saw how good he was 3-4 years later in Washington. Yeah. Imagine how good would that dude have been 4 years earlier. Wizard Jordan, but 4 years earlier. Really? And he's not the best player in the league? Get out of here.
The thing about like MJ, all the Pistons dynasty, they got to go out until they lost. The Lakers got to go out until they lost.
Yeah.
So went out until they lost.
Taken from him.
The Bulls dynasty was like the only one.
Right. So I mean, it's like
it helped his legacy.
It did. Yes, it did. Yes, it absolutely
maybe it did. But I mean, his mentality is like the Vikings. When you go to war, and if you die without your sword, you don't go to Valhalla. Mm-hmm. MJ wants to go out dying with his sword in his hand, his shield on his arm, fighting. He didn't get to fight for his life.
Mike's not looking at it like his legacy was protected by them not coming back.
No, he doesn't care about it.
I mean, his legacy was already intact. If he had lost, he wouldn't have 6. He'd have the same amount as Magic.
Yeah, but he'd have that one loss.
If he came back and lost the next year, still won 6. It's like he would still be considered the greatest. I mean, when he retired the first time after winning 3, they were saying he was the greatest then. So
what you talking about? His 3rd year in the league, his 2nd and 3rd year in the league, they were saying he was the greatest.
Well, yeah, but when he retired after winning the first 3 titles, it was legitimate arguments that he was the greatest.
There was no doubt about it.
Right.
No doubt.
It was no doubt. And I agree with that he wanted to play until he lost. He wanted the challenge. He wanted, now we got to play Tim Duncan and David Robinson. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to find out, like, we're discussing hypotheticals. I wouldn't say he's obsessed with hypotheticals, but I think he wonders what would have happened had we played that Spurs team.
Everybody says, well, he never played against the big man in the finals. Well, no, but he played against some of the greatest big men in the East to get to the finals.
Right.
So you can't say, well, he couldn't have handled that. No, he had to be Shaq, Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, and it wasn't like he was going to guard them anyway.
Very, very true. But nobody told him to retire in 93. You know what I mean? It's like, on the flip side, I'm kind of looking at him like, yeah, you're great. You're also a little petty, too, because, you could have stayed in the NBA in 90 for the 93, 94, and the 94, 95. I know there was a lot of issues off the court, like, his dad passing. Like, I know that wasn't to get over because they were incredibly close. But still, he had
his dad passed.
Let me finish. He's got a storybook career. Reason being, you think about it. It takes him 7 years to get the first chip. He does what no one has done, no team has done in like 30 years. And in winning 3 straight, he retires. He comes back and he wins 3 straight, and then he retires again. That's another that has kind of cemented him as the GOAT, because when he was in his prime, nobody dethroned him in his prime.
No.
Yeah, I agree that he could have stayed, but put yourself in this position. Everything you do is scrutinized. You have problems at work with your general manager, your teammates. Then your father gets killed, not passes, gets killed. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? I'm not coming to work. Fuck that.
He even said in one of the, I think it was Michael Jordan Airtime, or maybe it was one after. It was the one after that. It was one of those little 30-minute documentaries they used to release, and he just said there was nothing to play for.
Yeah,
there was no challenge.
Well, and honestly, I think there was a lot of fatigue, because he said after he hit that, he said even before he hit that shot, he said there was nothing left. And you think about a shortened season in '99. That's why
that's why the argument is there. That's why I think the argument is legit, because of all the rest he would have had.
We still don't know. Granted, LeBron is probably the most durable player I've ever seen in my life. Michael Jordan was very fortunate not to be hurt, but there's so many hypotheticals. There's so many, well, not hypotheticals. There's so many probability. There's so much probability, if I should say that, that he gets injured. If he does play in 94 and 90, we just don't know.
Or even if he comes back after 98, because he would have been turning 36 that next year.
Right. But
exactly.
That stuff we don't know. The stuff we do know is when you go to the finals, that's 20, 25 extra games a season. Then you add, going to the Olympics in the middle of the summer.
In 98, he did that McDonald's thing in Europe.
Well, that was their preseason. So But think about it this way. You're going to the conference finals in 89 and 90. You're going 91. To the finals in 91, 92, going to the Olympics and the finals in 93. You have just played essentially, what is that, an extra season and a half?
Yeah.
More than everybody else in that time. You're the most popular. You go to Barcelona and there is a 10-story billboard.
Hey, but here's the thing. I'm gonna push back, not because I disagree, but I'm gonna come from the LeBron standpoint of view. LeBron went to 8 straight NBA finals
and lost 5 of them.
Yeah, no, he lost. No, it's not about winning or losing. Right. He played all those games. That's what the LeBron people are gonna say. Well, wait a second. LeBron went to 8 straight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's proving what I'm saying. Only proving what Mike and I are saying right now. You play that many games, you go to that many finals.
It's a toll.
Or even consecutively, it's such a toll on you and your teammates that you're not guaranteed. In the modern era, I don't see anybody doing that and winning every single time. It just even the Warriors.
Not the way the game is now.
And actually, when you mention the Warriors, that's perfect. Look at how they broke down in 2019.
Yeah, and they went to 5 straight. And KD broke down, and he wasn't part of the 5 straight. He was only part of 3 of them.
But you also look at Clay.
That's because he's talking.
Draymond, and that's the point.
All right, Byron.
Byron? What'd you say?
Muffins. The Muffin Man.
Oh,
man. What were your final 2 questions? Because we do kind of need to wrap this up.
Yeah. Right. So
good job, Byron. Way to get us on track.
So I wanted to ask everybody, give me a favorite moment that you have from the entire documentary. Just one moment that you can pick out of the entire thing. Mike, I'm going to go to you first.
Which Mike?
Coach Mike.
Okay.
I distinguish between the two. I say skills and Mike. So I try to. That's how I change it.
Yeah, there's so many different moments at the whole thing. Just truthfully seeing my own pops on there just to relive those moments and memories, because not only is it just me and my brother seeing it and my family, you got random people reaching out on different social media platforms like, man, I just saw your dad on TV last night. Man, he's even trying to like downplay it, but it's people from all over the world is like, man, you were a bad dude back in the day, man. You were out there getting to it. And just to see those moments and relive those in my own mind, minus episode 9 and 10, it was just great to have those moments back, except for the final results of the last 2.
Nice. What about you, Sean?
Just the same. I mean, just the memories that it brings up. You know where you're at when these shots are taking place. Being able to text my dad and talk about, oh, what were you thinking when Michael Jordan is standing next to you at the free throw line? Are you trying to talk trash? Are you trying to like pick his brain? Like, I mean, what do you say to the greatest basketball player ever? But I mean, just being able to see your dad, the person you wanted to be like growing up, next to this person of such a great stature. I mean, I think it just brings back the great memories. But my favorite part of the documentary was got to be the security guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Those brothers.
The dude with the white hair.
yeah. I mean,
Wozniak.
Yeah, Wozniak. Hey, that dude
yeah.
was
I mean,
awesome.
he's a cool guy to hang out with, especially like Mike couldn't go out and be a normal person or hang out with his teammates. So, I mean, to have a good group of guys behind him is good to see that, he had people he could trust behind him and people that were looking out for him and whatnot. I thought those two were pretty funny.
What about you, Skills?
That's probably up there because I learned a lot about those security guys and how close their relationship was. I really liked introducing his best friend George / personal assistant and making that connection because he looks so different from how he did back in the day with that big, bushy hair up top and kind of the mullet in the back kind of thing. And just that whole story of how Jordan flies to Chicago, the Bulls don't send anyone to pick him up at the airport. George is there to pick up somebody else, and he's like, well, my guy didn't show up. And just him calling MJ Larry Jordan. Like, that little story is hilarious. And then him like, where I can get a place to eat, where I can get a haircut, where I can go to eat. And just seeing that, how really sheltered young Mike was in a sense of in a big city by himself. It is like, can you show me around? Can you tell me where to go? And just seeing that stuff about Mike that we never see in commercials and on TV. That was probably my favorite. Getting to know who the real Mike Jordan is. And he's pretty regular guy,
Very.
Byron, what you got?
I'm going to say his interaction with Kobe. I really love that. Not just so much what Kobe was saying when they interviewed him, but how he was preparing to play him in the All-Star game and his thoughts of him. You can see that early he knew Kobe was dangerous. It was a bad boy, just like he was. So that passing of the torch, but also that's one of my favorite moments, but also I really love the interaction with Mike and his mom because to her, as she knows he's got these extraordinary gifts and abilities athletically, but she's really unfazed by all the hype that is Michael Jordan. It's just her son. And I love how she advises him. And I love their relationship, how she was there for him at all of those crucial moments. She was there at the flu game. He didn't even let his wife and kids come to the final game in Utah. But if you notice, his mom was there. And I love the closeness they have and the reverence and the respect that he has for her. Like, he has a great deal of respect for his mom. And for him to be almost 60 and still have his mom, I think is really, really dope. So those are my favorite moments.
Matt.
Obviously, I'm going to put it in this terms, like all of it, like the stuff with the retirement. And then when he first came back with the 45, because it's just the nostalgia. And then, of course, the 97 and 98 stuff with the nostalgia. But I want to say this, honorable mention, because we haven't talked about it. No, we all don't have to comment. But, man, I really enjoyed the Steve Kerr stuff. That was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I like how they did it. Because, we got the Pippen episode. We got the Rodman episode. But they waited till we talked about the 97 finals when Steve Kerr hits the shot in game 6 of 97, and we get his backstory. And I enjoyed that. Because at the time, none of us knew that about his pops back then, that he was murdered, with the school overseas. Like, we didn't know any of that stuff.
Right.
It was very touching stuff, though. Like, if you don't respect Steve Kerr, like, come on.
Right. I agree. Yeah, it was definitely. I knew about it obviously because I was older and kind of researched it previous, but as a kid, you didn't know that, and so just kind of what he went through was pretty obviously heart wrenching. For me, 14-year-old me loved the Carmen Electra
Nice
stuff, but now I just like the very end for me with the fire burning, and you could just kind of go back through everything the documentary touched on, and just the impact Jordan had just across the league, across the nation. Whether you're whatever race you are, it doesn't matter. Like, whether you hated Michael at that time or you loved Michael at that time, he brought everybody together, as basketball fans, and just everything he went through, on a personal level, on a professional level, just all came, to a head in that moment at the end. And I'm not a Pearl Jam, fan, but I think that song kind of really, them putting that in there really ended it well. Another cool moment, not exactly what he said, but with Larry Bird when he's like, F you, to him. And he's, just the swagger to say that to Larry Bird. And you could just see Larry Bird's face just goes, stoic. And he's like, damn, my whole ego is deflated. Now I got to walk away. What can I say? It's like, okay, that wraps up Michael Jordan in a nutshell right there. Just the confidence, the swagger.
Golf game, right?
Yeah, like it was really cool to kind of see that. I didn't expect that.
That's why Byron brought up a good point when he said it came full circle with this documentary.
Absolutely. Yep.
With like Larry's like, man, that was like Jesus disguised as Michael Jordan. And then at the end, we see now Larry's the coach. He's got this Pacer team there. Michael beats him. He's like, yeah, now you can go work on your golf game.
That's why he wasn't smiling when Reggie hit that shot. He was like,
right.
Oh, yeah, like I played against him too.
He knows.
I know what this dude is capable of.
Exactly. All right, last question. Where does this, obviously it was 5 weeks, of greatness in my opinion. Especially during the coronavirus stuff and just, no other sports. But where do you rank this all time as a sports documentary? Mike?
As a basketball junkie, like, it's number one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Hoops my entire life. And then to just let all that every week, every day, try to disrespect the guy that they will wait in line and wait up till midnight to buy his shoes, but he's not the greatest ever.
Yeah.
But I don't tell me any different when I lived through it, and now you get to see just a piece of what I had to live through every single day, and why so many people like the fat guy that you on TV doesn't, or the bald head dude that's doing the games all terribly like Reggie Miller doesn't. Don't sit here and downplay what you see, and then like just bringing up all the facts of, man, this dude's drinking and smoking before games, looking at dudes, telling them he to bust their ass and really bust their ass, and to see how the game was played. Like, because that's the best era for me, because it's not one dude on every single team with the ball, 20 seconds each shot clock, and either shooting it or passing it to somebody shooting it. Everybody's moving, everybody's touching it, everybody's got roles. Because you got guys now, man, LeBron averaged more points, rebounds, assists. Like, well, Rodman averaged 15 rebounds. How many did you really want Mike to get when that was Rodman's job?
Yeah.
Scotty was basically a point forward. Mike's job was to kill and then sprinkle in everything else he had in the game, because he could have triple doubles, 10 triple doubles in 11 games, but we're trying to stick to a point. You got the greatest coach that's making sure everybody is involved in how basketball is supposed to work, what it's supposed to look like when great stuff happens.
Nice. What about you, Sean?
From somebody that has, probably watched that Come Fly With Me tape hundreds of thousands of times back in the day, this one, number one by far, I think. Just anything Michael Jordan is already gold. But I think in this one, we kind of got to see behind the curtain more. It wasn't just highlights. It was Michael Jordan letting us in, talking to us, and breaking down tape and what he's seeing, what he's going through. You know, we knew that he was close with his parents, but we didn't know how, you know, how wonderful a person his mom is. I mean, or his dad. You know, their relationship and what he went through when they played baseball and the media attention he was getting. I think whenever you're able to kind of see behind the scenes, it's kind of like watching Beyonce make music. It's a work of art. So being able to see Michael Jordan and kind of like his natural habitat, just kind of hanging out in a room with one white guy with a Jerry curl and another bald guy. I think, you know, people will come and watch it because it's something we've never seen before.
Wozniak.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. It's just the white guy with the hair. I mean, it's just something we never seen before when you're able to finally see that person. Because back then we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Facebook, so we didn't get to see Michael Jordan.
You know, we did see Wozniak in highlights rushing him off, but we didn't know who the fuck he was. We didn't know who he was.
I've seen him several times. I didn't know that was a part of the entourage like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
I mean, we learned a bunch of stuff. I mean, I think it was good.
Yeah. Skills.
I think it's the pinnacle. Like, I was texting somebody the other night and I was saying, you realize this documentary is like the Avengers to all the other 30 for 30s and even
nice. Mike Skill the analogy.
Like, it ties it all together. You can go watch the Reggie Miller versus the Knicks now. You got to watch the Bad Boys,
the Dennis Rodman,
Jordan Rides the Bus, Dream Team.
Hey, Jordan Rides, that was the baseball one, right?
No, it's the Infinity War is what you meant.
Yeah, well, basically, yeah, it's the Avengers. It's the Infinity War, it's Endgame, it's all of it together. Like, damn, like even the college one, Surviving Advance, the Fly Slammer Jammer, like, yeah, Guru of Gold.
Yeah, Guru of Gold, yeah.
Without bias.
All the difference is
Lakers Celtics one.
Benji, yeah.
Thanos in this movie.
And actually, the crazy thing is, Jordan is Thanos.
Good point. Hey, good point.
Right.
Six gems, 6 rings. I'm just saying.
He snapped the finger and they all just disappeared.
Yeah, everybody
straight up.
Here, man.
What about you, Matt?
It's definitely number one, but I'm gonna do kind of my little spiel here with the 3. I got to give my 3.
Dude, that's what I was going.
Yeah, but for me, obviously, this is number one, being a hoops guy and an NBA junkie and all that, as we all are. But 2 then would be OJ.
Right.
2 would be OJ. 3 is Hoop Dream. 3 would be Hoop Dreams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those would be my 3. This one's definitely number one, especially because it was 10 episodes. Like Sean said, you know, we saw the Come Fly With Me, the Michael Jordan Airtime, the Above and Beyond, the Michael Jordan's Playground, the IMAX, the Jordan to the Max, and all that stuff. But this was just like all that times 100.
See, I have Ken Burns' Baseball 3 only because my dad and I like watching that. We kind of bonded over that because I wasn't huge into baseball, but my dad was like fanatical on baseball. So he would tell me like little backstories on side stories of what they were talking about and stuff like that. So I always had that there. And then I always had Hoop Dreams second. And then, you know, then came along the OJ, you know, Made in America. So kind of have to bump everything down now because obviously this goes number one. But I mean, you can't just everything from seeing the battle, you know, battling the Celtics and Larry Bird to the Bad Boy Pistons to the end of the Lakers era to seeing flashes of Kobe Bryant there. You know, it just all came back full circle and it just really hit you as a lifelong, you know, fan of basketball. So.
Hey, Pete, where would you rank OJ?
Me?
Made in America, yeah.
I would put it 2 now.
So you're with me. Okay, yeah. That was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The only thing with that is OJ didn't really have a choice in.
That's okay. That's okay.
How it went.
While we're speaking
it was
OJ,
like shit on OJ.
I gotta say.
Hold on, I didn't get the answer. What you talking about?
Oh, wait, that's right. That's right. Go ahead, Byron. We skipped Byron.
Go ahead, Byron.
No, like I think, man, I was thinking OJ number one.
Right.
Because reason being because it was so complex, and I don't know, man. It's close because remember when we all watched it 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Matt, Mike, Gonzo, there was things we didn't know about OJ because his career predates us. So we didn't know that he was really like Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan. I even saw something that said there was this company that matched Nike's deal with for Michael Jordan, and on OJ's recommendation, he said, "This guy is the new me." So I think the OJ documentary was so good because it tells us how good he was as a player, and then it goes into the whole murder trial. So they show you OJ the hero, and then OJ maybe possibly the villain, the murderer. So it was very, very complex. But I don't know. I think this one was longer, and I'm such a Michael Jordan fan. I'd say 1A and 1B, and then Hoop Dreams, because we had never seen anything like Hoop Dreams before. They made a documentary off the potential of 2 high school basketball players, and we didn't know where they would go, how that would go. And that was very, very complex as well, going into the lives of those real characters, so.
Nice. Hey, real quick, OJ, follow him on Twitter. That dude is funny as hell.
Enter the world. It's yours truly.
How y'all feel about OJ?
It's yours truly.
Come on, Mike. He's funny.
Matt, he is, but I got one I'm going to talk to y'all once we get off the air, because I'm afraid if I say it, people will go follow him, and we don't need people to follow him. But it's, bruh, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say till the end.
Funny. Yes.
All right. I'm a wrap it up just by saying, I thank you guys, Sean and Mike, especially just because you guys shared a lot of, stories that you didn't necessarily have to share about your childhood and with your dad, and just gave everybody, that's watched or listened to this, a unique side that nobody else can offer. So really appreciate both of you, especially for doing that.
No problem.
But Mike, I want to go to you. Can you let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
On Twitter and Instagram is HC_Coach Mo.
Nice. What about you, Sean?
That's Morris on all platforms.
Nice. Byron.
Rad Rim. Gmail, Twitter, RADREMM.
Nice. Skills. Even though you got it right there.
Yeah. What you see on Mike's screen.
Right. Matt, even though you hosted the podcast, but just anybody that's listening.
What is my dance? I don't ever have to say, let me see what my I don't even know. Oh, it's at Coach Miller 1981. Yeah, at Coach Miller 1981 on Twitter.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm at Pete Toal. Want to thank everybody for listening to the Unquestionably Raw NBA podcast. Want to also let you know we are not done with the podcast. We're going to keep it going. We'll probably
take a week, maybe 2 off.
Yeah, just a small break.
We'll take a small break, maybe a week.
Small break, but we're going to come back with the MJ versus LeBron debate and much more, many more topics beyond that. But hope everybody enjoyed The Last Dance, enjoyed all of our episodes, and thanks for listening and thanks for watching.
Damn it.